tackle. It'll be Jason and Chingel out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
All righty, good morning, and a great Monday morning. You and yours. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We ask, as always, you please subscribe to the program. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook, where the show is streaming on the Chatterbox Sports page. If you would prefer to find us in podcast form, search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. Well, look, first half wasn't pretty, not by any means, but most of the time when you're playing in divisional games, they're not pretty. Teams know you. You know them. You look around the AFC North and most other divisions, more times than not every time, it's low scoring and it's tight. Injuries were a major factor for the Bengals yesterday. We told you about the T. Higgins thing. He shows up on the injury report last week with a hamstring on Wednesday. And we said, hey, look, this is something not to fool around with. He was in the play for one snap in the game. Tyler Boyd played 2 plays before injuring his finger, a dislocated finger, we're told. But the most troubling injury of all is to Trey Hendrickson. He broke his wrist in the fourth quarter and still played the next series. He's not expected back until the playoffs start. The bottom line is Joe Burrow and the Bengals exercised the demons known as the Cleveland Browns in a 23-10 win to stay atop, tied atop the AFC North at 9-4. It was Cincinnati's first win since 2019 against their in-state rivals. Joe Mixon came back, runs for nearly 100 yards and only 14 carries. In fact, you take away 6 Joe Burrow rushes, and some of them were important, but they were for minimal yards. The Bengals would have averaged nearly 7 yards per carry in the game. The defense simply lights out. Deshaun Watson was better than his first game back. Not a lot, but a little bit better. Threw for 276. The difference was the runs defense. Cleveland averaged 2.5 yards per carry. Nick Chubb was not even a factor. 14 attempts, 34 yards. Next up for the Bengals, a trip to Tampa Bay this Sunday. The Bucs are awful. They're awful. Pure and simple. Their offense is one of the worst offenses, and they've got future Hall of Famers all over the place. They get boat raced yesterday by the 49ers, 35-7. Bad news in that one, by the way. Deebo Samuel, arguably the best player in the NFL that's not a quarterback, was carted off with an ankle injury. Game time for the Bengals in Tampa this Sunday, 4:25. We've got Zim Who Dey coming up, Brian Billick coming up, and, of course, Casey McAllister, Paul Fritchner, Brandon Seho. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. How was your weekend?
Great weekend. Great weekend. Sun shining here in Hamilton, Ohio. Beautiful Monday. Good win for the Bengals. Paul Fritchner still celebrating the Crosstown Shootout. We'll talk more about all of those shortly. The Ravens keep losing quarterbacks, yet they just keep on winning. Tyler Huntley, already filling in for the injured Lamar Jackson, was concussed in the third quarter at Pittsburgh. So what do? They hand the ball to Anthony Brown, an undrafted rookie quarterback out of Oregon who was just activated off the practice squad this week. And they decided we're going to run, and play defense. They run for 215 yards, First game back for the former Buckeye J.K. Dobbins. He runs for 120. And the run game, coupled with the defense, it intercepted Mitchell Trubisky 3 times inside the 20. Kenny Pickett was knocked out of that game. 1 pass attempt into it. The Ravens at 9-4 still hold the tiebreak over the Bengals in the AFC North. The Philadelphia Eagles, look, this is insane. They are 12-1. A major beatdown of the New York Football Giants yesterday, 48-22. The G-Men have won once in their last 6 games. And the MVP of the league, just give it to the guy now. Burrow's having a great year. Allen's having a great year, Mahomes. The MVP of the league is Jalen Hurts. End of story. 2 more touchdown passes, and Philadelphia clinches a playoff spot with 5 games left in the season. Cowboys, a miracle finish, late touchdown run by Ezekiel Elliott, barely beating 1-win Houston, 27-23. The Bills down the Jets 20-12. They're 10-3 and still sit atop the AFC playoff picture as a number 1 seed. Shocker of the day, the Lions. Casey, your guys.
Yep. That's not a shocker to me, but
you said from the beginning of the year, watch the Lions. The battling Chris Spielmans, as we call them. Detroit lights up Minnesota 34-23. Jared Goff has not thrown a pick in 5 weeks. He throws 3 touchdown passes, 330 yards. The Lions are 6-7 and a game and a half out of the NFC playoffs. College football, Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy on Saturday. Not a surprise. Williams finished ahead of TCU's Mac Duggan in the voting, with C.J. Stroud of Ohio State finishing 3rd, Stetson Bennett of Georgia 4th. I got to tell you, and I said this to Casey earlier, I don't pay a lot of attention to Caleb Williams except for watching him play football. His speech is something I would highly recommend each and every one of you, if you got a few minutes, to go back and watch it. This kid is first class all the way, and the same for his mom and dad. It was unbelievable, the story that he told. In 8th grade, he comes back home one day. He's told he's too small to be a good football player. In a nutshell, he gets in the car with his dad, and he says, "Dad, I love football. I love the smell of football. I love the language of football. I want to be a great football player." His dad says to him, "Son, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to go get it. What do you want to do about it?" They go home, and they write out this entire plan. They got up for 5 years at 5 o'clock in the morning. Worked out at 5:30. He went to school all day, came back home. They worked out again at 4 o'clock. It was just unbelievable, the whole Caleb Williams story. Of course, of the 4 guys that were there, Williams Trojans are the only team not in the college football playoff. And it's interesting to note, got nothing against Lincoln Riley, but Williams is his 3rd Heisman Trophy winner, joining Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray when he was at Oklahoma. Yet Riley has never had a team win a college football playoff game. Not one. 0-3. And then, of course, they choked it off this year when they lost to Utah in the Pac-12 Conference Championship game. Paul, you're laughing. You're snickering at that comment. Were you snickering at that?
No.
I thought you sure?
No. Yeah.
You're a guy. It's Lincoln Riley. What an amazing game in the annual Army-Navy clash in Philadelphia. Some of us around here knew the Army was dialed in. Jeff Monken, leader of men. Double overtime. Army wins it 20-17. Sad news. Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach is in the hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. No further details have been released. Leach did say he struggled with pneumonia during the season. Our prayers are with him and his family. Talked about Xavier holding off a late UC run, beating the Bearcats in the Crosstown Shootout 80-77. Muskies now 7-3 on the year. They host Southern tomorrow night before opening Big East play Friday night at Georgetown. And the Big East stinks. I mean, it stinks. It does. Creighton's okay. UConn's really good. Xavier is good. Outside of that, I mean, you can lose to anybody anytime. But this year, the league is down. UC, 6-4, will host Miami Wednesday night at Fifth Third Arena. Number 1, Houston loses over the weekend to 8th-ranked Alabama. Number 2, Texas loses to Illinois. And look, Paul Fritzner, before we get into the Bengals, you follow college basketball religiously.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I don't remember a year this early, and I know we're only in December, and maybe somebody will turn out to be the team that looks like they're the one to beat. But it doesn't look like, I mean, I think you can make an argument there are 15 teams when all's said and done, maybe more, that could be in the top 3, top 5.
Yeah, I would really say right now I would say there are probably 4. I'd look at Connecticut, Houston, Texas, and Purdue. Maybe you could put Tennessee in that conversation too. I haven't seen a ton of Tennessee this year, so I don't want to say it just from my perspective. I know a lot of people have talked about it, but I don't want to just regurgitate everybody else. Connecticut, to me, though, they have looked unbelievable this year. They don't have any holes on that team. I would take Connecticut as the number 1 team in the country right now. Texas, maybe number 2. I know they lost, but also some news coming out this morning about Chris Beard being arrested, their head coach. That's certainly a situation to keep an eye on. So, yeah, Purdue has looked fantastic. They're 10-0. I'd say Connecticut, Purdue 1-2 probably. But Purdue, I mean, they needed overtime to beat Nebraska over the weekend. So
yeah, but you know what I'm saying. When I said that about 15 or 20, at the end of the day, any of those teams you just mentioned, okay, in a month from now, if they ran into Kentucky, they run into Duke.
Yeah.
They run into Gonzaga, right? They run into Arizona, right, who took it to Indiana. They're a whole laundry list. I mean, in Carolina, they lost 4 in a row. They won over the weekend. I mean, at the end of the day, if tomorrow UConn or any of those teams you just met, Virginia, they're going to play Duke and North Carolina a couple of times before the year's over. I mean, you wouldn't bet big money on Virginia to beat North Carolina or Duke when they play. Would you?
North Carolina's bad.
You say what you want about North Carolina.
Duke,
we'll see
Duke
in January.
Yeah. But right now, I mean, they've also been missing their best players. So
and Kentucky starting to, I mean,
they always take a little while.
Yeah, it takes a little while when you're young. We've got them by the hundreds, if not thousands, in the group chat. Some of our regular cast of characters on board. Sir Boy Wonder, B. Sewell 513, Terrell, new Greg Jones said, "Good to see you, Tommy." Greg, good seeing you, brother. Great seeing you. Williams here, the player formerly known as Mouse Cop, or is that yes? Okay. LaRon is back. I like bacon. Who's that? Have we seen him before? Him or her?
We've seen him once or twice.
Okay. Kilmar's in with us, 6412 Mars. Excalibur Iron Force. All right, boys. Big Art just jumped in. All right, boys. The Bengals. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the indifferent.
Okay. Well,
okay. Let's start with the good. The good is you won the game. First time Joe Burrow, as a starting quarterback in the National Football League, beats the Cleveland Browns. Shaky start, but got it together. And the defense is good.
Yes, defense is good. They were who we thought they were, and the Browns stink. Just simple as that. Deshaun wasn't quite ready to come and play a championship-level defense. He is getting better, though. That is one thing I said. I said Deshaun would suck week 1, which he did.
Yep.
He came back this week, looked a lot better.
Yep.
Let's see if he can beat the Ravens now, who are without their starting quarterback and their backup quarterback. So I'm really hoping Deshaun can make a full comeback here in the next couple of days. But anyways, that's not the only thing that was good. Joe Burrow just lights people up. Doesn't matter who's on the field.
Okay, hold on now.
What?
Okay. In the first half, he wasn't lighting anybody up. I mean, let's don't get carried away now. I mean, he played a good game. He didn't play a light-em-up great game. 7 balls batted down. They put up that graphic, 25 balls batted down. under a lot of pressure. Paul, what are you shaking your head? What are you saying? You with me on this?
I just get so frustrated. Every time I was sitting there watching the game yesterday at a big family party, and a few of us were sitting there locked in on the game, and every time a ball gets batted down, I'm just shaking my head, and I'm thinking to myself, it hasn't really come back to hurt the Bengals too much. I mean, there have been a couple of batted balls this year that have been intercepted, including one yesterday. But unless I'm forgetting a situation this year, which I could be, I don't think there's been a batted ball that's turned into an interception that's been completely game-changing. But I'm just waiting on something on a batted ball to go terribly wrong in a late-game situation. With how many times are we going to see a ball go into the defensive line? I just feel like it's 3 or 4 times a game, every game. And I don't know what the fix is for that, because you can tell what he's trying to do and fitting it in those tight windows. And you don't want to take away from who he is as a quarterback, so you don't really want him to stop doing it. But at the same time, you can't just keep getting those passes batted down or batted into the air and then intercepted. I don't really know. I'm not coach. I don't know how to fix that. It just seems off.
Well, we'll ask Brian Billick about that, because it's an interesting point you make. I'm not going to sit here and claim to know what the answer is. I have no idea. I do know that they put up that graphic yesterday during the telecast of his first, whatever it was, 700 passes in the NFL. And only like 12 of them were batted down, and now this year it's been 25. I mean, there's something there. But the bottom line is Burrow got it together when they needed to. Their depth, we've talked about this on this show regularly, their depth, and Duke Tobin, who's the head of player personnel, the de facto general manager of the team, their depth just continues to show up every time you turn around. And it's going to be tested even more so now. But to start with, we talked about Higgins, 1 play, Boyd, 2 play. Which, by the way, let me just interrupt something here for a second. And look, I sat in the TV booth for 16, 17 weeks a year for 25 years on the NFL. And there are things when you go into a game that you have to get in. Okay, your production meeting the night before, you want to get the lineups in and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And they say, okay, after the first play, we're going to put up the offense lineups. After the second play, unless, of course, it's a touchdown, we're going to put up the defensive starters. Okay, that's what we're going to do, and that's what every single group does. Some of them do it differently than others. I'm sitting at home yesterday on the second play of the game, and I see right away that throw to Boyd. And you saw it too. Many of you saw it too. Where all of a sudden, he is in unbelievable pain. And starts going, that's just Tyler Boyd now, okay? This isn't like some stiff, okay? And what does CBS want to do? They want to make sure they get in the lineup. They did not get a report on Tyler Boyd until the end of the first quarter. He was hurt the second play of the game. Turns out to be a dislocated finger. But Trent Taylor, Irwin.
Yep.
They continue to step in. They didn't have Hayden Hurst. Look, the depth is amazing. But now that we're down to the final 4 weeks, 2 in a row on the road, the last 2 at home against 2 of the monsters in the AFC, back-to-back, Bills and Ravens, I'm a little concerned about it. In fact, I'm more than a little concerned. Because Hendrickson, they're saying, is not back to the playoffs. I think we all agree. We've said on the show. Sam Hubbard's having a great year. DJ Reader is a monster, should be a Pro Bowler. But at the end of the day, it is rare to see any of the Bengals. It's happened every now and again. But it's rare to see anybody on that defense get to the quarterback besides Trey Hendrickson.
But at least
now you're not going to have him for at least 4 weeks, maybe longer.
I don't disagree with you, but you just look at the first 2 opponents we face, Tampa and the Patriots. And it is not, I wouldn't say it's extremely critical that we need to have a stellar pass rush against them. It really does help, especially if you look at the 49ers and what they did to Tom Brady. But that wasn't the reason why they really won the game. It was because they were just dominant over their defense. Tampa's defense has gone south fast. I don't know what the problem is. I haven't really been keeping up with them as much. I don't know if it's injury related.
Yeah, their offensive line has just been decimated by injuries.
Right, but I'm saying for their team defensively.
Yeah, defense. Yeah. You're right. They've fallen apart.
It is miserable, and Tom Brady's doing his best to keep together, and you can see that. But I mean, it's tough. It's really tough on him. So I think we match up really well with them right now.
Yep.
As things stand.
Yep.
And I'm gonna see later tonight when the Patriots play the Cardinals what we're up against in that front. But I'm not really scared of a anemic Patriots offense if we're missing Trey Hendrickson for extended periods of time. So for me, these next 2 weeks, I'm not that concerned. It's the following 2 weeks where we don't know what Trey Hendrickson's timetable is yet, but the Bills game is on a Monday night, so that gives him at least 3 weeks.
Yep.
3 weeks in a day.
Yep.
To fully recover.
3 weeks from today.
3 weeks from today to get a full recovery. And he might play with a cast on. We don't really know yet how serious it was. And same thing with Tyler Boyd. I mean, Mike Hilton, it took him a week to come back from his dislocated finger.
That was when they had the bye week.
Okay,
so he had an extra week. He had surgery, and they fixed his finger, and he came back the following week against Pittsburgh after the bye.
Yeah, and that's not even really – those two aren't the serious injuries I'm worried about because those, to me, are short timetables. They'll be ready for when it really matters, the playoffs. I'm worried about T. Higgins. Hamstring injuries tend to linger for a long time. He tried to play, wasn't able to play. Those are tricky injuries.
Yes, they are.
And if it does not fully recover, if it's not fully healed and you try to play on it, you risk the injury to be even greater. A teared hamstring would likely kick him out of any sort of playoff run, any Super Bowl type of run that we would want to aspire to. So to me, that is the tricky injury out of all the players that were hurt this last Sunday. T. Higgins is the one I'm looking out for the most. I think he affects the game the most out of everyone. But like I said, Joe Burrow will cook teams regardless. He is going to hit the open man, give the guy an opportunity. And there was a few plays where Irwin or Taylor were cutting across, heading towards the sideline. They just couldn't get their feet in bounds or they just barely off target. That's going to get cleaned up. Joe Burrow will get that cleaned up with those guys. He's going to start hitting those guys better on those out routes and to the comeback routes to the sideline. And once that happens, it'll be the same old Joe Burrow. I mean, he still looked like the same old Joe Burrow to me last week or this Sunday. That throw to Jamar Chase, so pinpoint.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, threading the needle.
Well, he's a man. I mean, Burrow's a man. Dwayne, what's the deal? Why are you getting so worked up here? I mean, seriously. He just wrote in, Thom, stop it. If you're that damn concerned, don't watch anymore. Tired of the pessimistic attitude every time someone gets injured. Dwayne, look, I'm not being pessimistic about any of it. I'm optimistic about their team. These are real issues. This is a sports talk show. We're talking about the Bengals, and you have to ask questions. Everybody laughed us off here last week when we said the T. Higgins thing might be something to be concerned about when he shows up on the injury list on Thursday. He played one play. Tyler Boyd left the second play of the game, didn't come back. Hendrickson has a broken wrist. That is not being pessimistic. It is just laying all the cards out on the table.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
It's a different type of struggle. I mean, we've done it without Chase and Reeder. I mean, those two are just as important as Higgins and Hendrickson, in my opinion. Maybe those two are even more important, Chase and Reeder. But we'll adapt. We'll figure it out. Osai's been looking pretty good the last couple weeks. I know he's got little time to play, but that's because Hendrickson is a great talent on the field. You don't want to bring him out when those dire situations call. So let's just not panic, but let's just have some concern about what the game plan is going in. I really think that they try to use Osai a lot more. I think he gets the start.
Yeah, he'll get the start.
And we'll see. The one game that Osai did really well on, let's not forget, was that preseason game against Tampa, against Tristan Wirfs, or whatever.
Well, I
starting.
think he's going to be out now. I think he got injured again yesterday. I think that's one of the major things that continues to happen to Tampa Bay. I mean, everybody in the league has injury. I mean, if you're the San Francisco 49ers right now.
It just doesn't matter. They've got the best backup quarterback in the league, and Purdy. Oh, man, that kid.
He was the first it was the 8th time that a quarterback made his first start in the NFL against Tom Brady. The first 7 guys were 0-7. And Purdy breaks through with a victory. Did you see his post game? It was really cute yesterday. Did you see that?
In stadium or the press conference?
In the press conference. Did you see him talking about Tom Brady?
No, I did not.
Did you hear any of that? I mean, it was really cool because Purdy's a young guy, has grown up. If you're a quarterback, look, if you're in the band, everybody's watched Tom Brady, right? I mean, he's been the greatest of all time. And when Purdy and Brady shook hands after the game, and whatever it was that Brady said to him, and they get in a press conference, and Purdy's like, man, he's like, to think that even Tom Brady shook my hand or gave me a high five and said anything good about the way I played against him. He's like, are you kidding me? It's like living in a dream world. It was really, really cute, and good for him. They got a good team.
Yeah. And one thing that maybe we'll do a topic on later is a team that you don't want to face in the NFL right now if you're the Bengals. Like, if we somehow made it to the Super Bowl, a team that you don't want to face right now, mine is San Francisco all the way. I don't want to see San Francisco. I think I could handle facing the Eagles. I think we match up well against their defense. But San Francisco, to me, is a nightmare scenario.
Chat's popping off right now. Make sure, everybody, if you haven't already, go down, subscribe, like the video, too. If you are already subscribed, go down there, like the video. I've seen a lot of Cam Taylor-Britt talk in the chat. How well did he play yesterday?
He played well, and I loved the and I'm going to botch. Who did the color yesterday? Was that Adam Archuleta?
I thought it was. I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think so.
And obviously he was a heck of a player. I mean, really good player for a long time in the NFL. Safety. And, he was talking about Cam Taylor-Britt and watching video of him in the games leading up to the broadcast yesterday. And, I mean, he basically described him in everything you want to hear about a young player. Violent, hard hitter, aggressive, passionate, all those things. And that's what they need. I mean, look, they've overcome all the injuries in the secondary. So I was really worried for a little while yesterday about Hilton. When he was slow to get up and you're thinking, oh, man, not another one. But thank goodness he turned out to be okay.
Yeah, he said after the game that he thought he was more hurt on the field than he was.
Yeah.
And they ended up being okay.
Yeah, I mean, because that's another leader back there, him and Von Bell. And look, Bates and now Cam Taylor-Britt. And, they just – Eli Apple. Those guys just continue to play so well, and the run defense was very good after being not so good against Kansas City. Kansas City ran the ball pretty well against them. But, man, Lou Anarumo, I mean, he just does it in different ways. That's the thing that I marvel at when you watch the Cincinnati Bengals defense. We've talked about the injuries a little bit. But, 1 week – you're having to play a certain style, rush 3, drop 8, as they've had success against Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City. The next week, you're loading up the box a little bit, thinking the Browns are going to try to run it. By the way, I don't know how you guys felt about this. I have been a big defender of Kevin Stefanski, and I know a lot of people aren't a big fan, Cleveland fans of Kevin Stefanski. He's 1 game over 500, I think, now in his career, his 3rd year there in Cleveland. What that play when they brought in, I think it was the first or second drive of the game.
It was their first drive.
Okay. And they bring in Jacoby Brissett, right?
Yeah.
What was that, a 4th and 1?
Yeah, 4th and 1.
And, I mean, I'm sitting there going, you've been waiting on Deshaun Watson, who you just gave $250 million to be your quarterback, right?
Yeah.
He just came back. It's his first series. He's driving the team down the field. And you get to 4th and 1 and you jerk his tail to the sideline and bring in Jacoby Brissett? I mean, what is going on there?
I can't
They
believe
got Chubb. They got Hunt. They got Deshaun Watson who can run. And on 4, and it should have been a touchdown. I mean, it was a right play call. There's no doubt about that. Brissett overthrew the guy. It should have been 6. But what are these guys thinking about when they're doing this stuff?
You know what's crazy is that usually they talk about your first set of plays, your first drive being scripted. Are you telling me that they had that scripted in their game plan? That they were going to go for it if this happened in the first drive of their game? They were going to pull out Deshaun Watson and let Jacoby Brissett throw a deep bomb? I don't know what the thought process is there. It's terrible.
You know what the funny thing was? I was watching this at a family party. I watched the whole game on mute, so I didn't notice that they had made the substitution. And I see they roll out. Jacoby throws the ball, overthrows him. I'm like, I look at the guys I'm sitting there watching it with. I go, whoa, where'd that come from, Deshaun? And then he turns around. I see the Brissetters. I go, what in the world was he doing in the game?
Well, that's where you can look like. I mean, really, if there is Exhibit A of where a coach can look like the smartest guy in the world and the dumbest guy in the room, it's that play and that decision.
Yeah, but it's not even so. It's two-folded though. Why even take out Deshaun? Just leave him in and run the same play.
I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't. I just sat there and I said, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a break. We got Zim Who Dey coming up in a matter of moments. Hear what he has to say. He's been going at it back and forth with all these Cleveland fans all over Twitter. We got Brian Billick coming up after 11. Thank all of you for being with us here today. We're back in a moment.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Sweeney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Sweeney, the original used car superstore.
Also, when I lost in Anaheim, my dad was at the game, and my dad was down and out and sad. And see, back then, the older generation, a lot of times they would use negative motivation as like you can't do this or hey man, you won't do that. Where nowadays you can't use negative motivation, to the young kids, because a lot of them would just sit out on you and quit. You know what I mean? So my dad. never forget, and I've told people this, he told me, he said, son, I don't know if you'll ever win one, a pennant or not. We didn't win it that year in San Francisco because, we had them down. You know what I mean? And he says, I don't know if you'll ever win one, after this. And that's the first thing that I thought about was say, hey, Dad, you're wrong again. I mean, I swear that's the first thing I thought about. Dad, you're wrong.
Everybody wants to say, Dad, you're wrong, right? There's 2 beds in that room. There's 2 double beds.
Boy, your
in that room. Jim wants to know, said it kind of reminds me of Mr. and Mrs. Wilson on Dennis the Menace. There are a lot of people wondering, what's going on down there. Because you've been very hard on Danae on this program. I mean, you have worn her out when it comes to her choice of accommodations on places where you guys have been staying, whether it was down in Mexico. Right. I think you referred to that 6-star resort as a dump. And then you went on to say that the house you rented down on the Gulf side of Florida here the last couple of weeks was also a dump. Anything you want to share, or would you just rather stay away from that topic?
No, we were catching a situation. There's no doubt about it. But, Casey, this is what you have to look forward to when you're married for 13 years. You see that? No action, pulling no wool, and then going back, pulling no wool. So 13 years of marriage, that's what it gets you. 2 separate queen beds. And you know who Tucker slept with last night? Danae. I'm all by myself, and don't think I'm not going to go to that Taylor Swift concert and get me some phone numbers so I can get a Mrs. Jones number 3. Because I will. I ain't messing around.
Got the tracer tomorrow. He's trying to think. What did he say? He was going to fly out to Southern California for the second time after he just got back from there. Was going to fly back. Is he going to join us from the train tomorrow? Is that right?
I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But I'm excited because we've got a new segment for him.
We do.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chatterbox. You want to give us a little teaser, or you want to wait?
No, we're going to wait because Chatterbox has been working really hard behind the scenes, coming up with different segment ideas for you, the viewers, and for all of our guests. And this is one we're really excited about. So we'll talk more about it on Tuesday. You'll see what we're talking about later on in the show, some just quality of life changes for the program.
Very, very nice. And we thank all of you who are with us today in the chat. AJ, welcome back. Don, Andrew says the Buccaneers have good weapons. Evans, Godwin, Fournette. If you take them lightly, they can certainly beat you. That's true. Okay.
Well, speaking of quality of life changes, your quality of life changed over the weekend,
Gotta
Tom.
tell you, boys, I said it a long time ago. Now, this was going into the weekend. Just watch that bottom name there for a minute. 3 games over 500. Boy, has that changed our picks.
There we go.
Oh, boy. Here we go. All right. Only one of us took Monk and leader of men. The Army.
The Army.
All right. There's 1-0 for Brennaman. We move on. The Jets to cover. They cover.
They covered.
That 10 was too big of a number. Too big.
10 is way – if you've been following me, you know I hate those double-digit spreads. 10's way too big.
But, they made that decision late in the game where, it was a 4th down. They were down 20-9. So the Bills were covering.
Yep.
And the Jets decided to kick the field goal, which made it 20-12. And then
something I really want to know that we can maybe research is how the Bills have been doing against the spread. Because I feel like every week they get giant spreads, like 10 points, 14 points, and they never cover.
I got you. Hold on.
Yeah.
They have covered a couple –
I saw somebody wrote yesterday, it was a guy, Darren Ravel, a really well-known sports business columnist. I thought he said the Bengals are the best team against the spread in the NFL so far this year.
By far, they are 10-3 this year against the spread, and they're 18-3 overall in their last 21 games.
How about that?
I guess L.A. has not figured us out quite yet,
or Las Vegas either.
Yeah, well,
I think
that's
LA.
what
I think
that's
LA.
what I meant.
Close.
That's what I meant.
Well, I think LA.
Drive there. It's not a bad drive.
LA figured us out in February.
Not a bad drive.
The Bills are 5-7-1 against the spread this year.
So there you go.
Yep. All right. Next one up. I took a shot here. Took a shot to gain some ground.
You did, and I don't know how anybody, fellas, I was being serious when I said earlier, Paul, you lose that one, the G-men, and they are in a free fall. I think all of us agreed they were a mirage. They were they were beating really bad teams. But I have to tell you, the more I watch Philadelphia, and I know they're 12-1, it's the best record in the league, that is a monster team.
It is. It is. And
I mean, they can run it. They go for over 250 in the game yesterday. There have been games where Hurts is throwing 340 yards, almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. They got it going on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I find it really hard to believe that people will not vote for Jalen Hurts, regardless of what the stats say. I mean, the dude just – he's unbelievable so far this year, and it's crazy how much he's developed. You go look at the playoff game they had last year and how bad that Eagles team was against Tampa Bay. It's night and day, this team.
All right, next
They
up.
are really good. Have I lost a game yet, by the way?
No, you have not.
I don't think you have, Tom.
I just want to double check.
All right.
Oh, wait. Did I lose?
No.
Oh, that's right. Chargers won.
Yeah. Man, this was tough watching too, because Miami Tua stinked.
Boy, I'm telling you,
He
I read an interesting column about Miami this morning. Outside of the Buffalo game, and you can make the argument in New England and the Jets, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But whenever they've played a decent team outside of the one game against Buffalo very early in the year, they're beating a lot of bad teams. And now all of a sudden they've gone 2 in a row against playoff caliber teams. The Chargers are right there on the edge. They've had to go out west back-to-back. They get run over by the 49ers, but right now everybody's getting run over by the 49ers. And then they get beat by a team. They said last night on the telecast, I don't know if you guys heard this, we talked about injuries, okay? And when they did the Chargers lineup, and I always love how NBC does the lineups where they get the guy to say his school or his hometown. Yeah. I think it's really cool. They said of the 11 guys that introduced themselves as starters on the San Diego or the LA Chargers defense last night, they said that 9 of those guys were not starters when the year began.
Wow. Because
of injuries. They've got all these backups that are playing in a game. And they just shut Miami. Would Miami have 16 points in a game? 23-16?
It was 23-17, I think.
17, okay.
Well, we knew this was chalked when the whole NBC crew picked the Dolphins before the game.
Well, of course.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. I never really listened to the announcers, but for the first couple drives, I was listening to Colin, and he's like, I can't believe this secondary. This is a whole new secondary. Yep. We got rookies everywhere. They're covering Waddle. They're covering Tyreek Hill. And they got really lucky scoring their first touchdown, I believe. I mean, it was Tyreek just picked up the fumble, right? I don't quite remember.
Yes, exactly. He just squirted right out underneath the lineman down on the ground or something. Yeah, that's how they got one of their touchdowns, one of their 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just checking something real quick, though, about the playoffs here. The Chargers, with that win last night, they have the final wild card spot right now because they own a tiebreak over the New York Jets based on win percentage in conference games. The Bengals are still the 5 seed. And we'll put all this stuff up in a minute. If you can pull that up, Casey, we'll get to it in a minute.
Yep.
The Dolphins are slipping fast. They are no longer the leaders. They were in the lead of the division for a long time, and now they've lost 2 in a row. Buffalo, the division leaders, in the top seed. All right, what's next?
Well, I think you won this one too, Tom.
What's that?
This one?
Oh, yeah. That looks like a win for you again. Wow.
I don't know. I'm not really paying attention. I'm more concerned with these different teams. Have I lost yet?
No, you have not lost.
No, you haven't.
Wow. Pretty good week.
Yeah.
Okay. Casey, Men of Aluminum,
Yeah.
denied again.
Put too much faith in them. They stink still.
You know, but here's the thing that worries me a little bit. Okay, let's stop for a second, okay? Here's the thing. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens the last game of the season, okay? I think they're going to beat them. But obviously the Bengals have a very big game. Every game's big now here at the end of the year. I still think the Bengals, to win the division, they're going to need Baltimore to lose another game to somebody.
Yeah.
Because if it comes down to a tie break, you know, the games inside the division, Baltimore has 3 games left inside the division. They play every team. They play the Steelers again. They play the Browns this weekend. They play the Bengals the last game of the year. They're not going to lose all 3 of those games. And the best the Bengals can hope for is a 3-3 divisional record. That would be to win out. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they only have 1 division game left. They're 2-3. But Baltimore has not lost a division game. So they're going to need the Ravens to lose another game if they want to win this division. Go ahead.
All right. Well, this one, I mean, it looks like a win, too. I think.
Pause, good pick.
That was a good pick. San
Great.
Francisco.
It was a great pick, honestly. I thought I was really confident in that one. Best quarterback of all time.
I can't bet against Tom Brady.
Is it just me, or does he seem he seems gun shy to me?
Off.
I mean, with that offensive line, I would be too.
Yeah, I mean, he really looks gun shy to me. And this is hard to watch. We'll talk with Brian Billick about it. And look, nobody's going to be out there feeling sorry for Tom Brady. But you just don't like to see guys going out the way that he's going out. I mean, it is brutal to watch them. If the Bengals don't beat them like the 40, I don't care where the game's played. It could be played here in Hamilton across the street. The Bengals should demolish this team.
I won't say that.
They're not very good, Casey.
I know, but
I mean, they're sick. They're the first team. I can't remember how many years it's been. They're the first team in a long time to be under 500 and leading a division 15 weeks into the season, and they're barely hanging on. You imagine if they don't win that game last Monday night?
Oh, God.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a miracle in and of itself that they lost, that they won that game.
There'd be a 3-way tie for first place?
Yeah, I mean, and now you've got, Atlanta has hope. Carolina goes out and beats Seattle yesterday.
Yep. That's good for them.
And all of a sudden, they're 1 game back of being in the playoffs. And Des Ridder, former UC star, starts for Atlanta this week.
I wonder, we should all make take a serious look into the playoff odds for all 3 of those teams, and maybe sprinkle in some money on some of those teams.
On the teams?
Yeah, why not? I mean, Atlanta has a serious chance, and so does Panthers.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think the Bucs win next week, so they're going to be, 6-8?
Look, I'm the one that's been sitting up here for 4 weeks saying that I'm not going to discount Tom Brady, but it'd be tough if the Bengals lose to this team next week.
Yeah.
It'd be tough.
No doubt. No doubt.
I'm looking right now at the odds to make the playoffs for the NFC South. And who did you say? The Falcons?
The Falcons and the Panthers are both at 5-8, and Tampa's at 6-6.
Yeah, 1 game back.
Falcons to make the playoffs plus 900. Panthers to make the playoffs plus 350. Bucks to make the playoffs minus 300. So still very much the odds.
Well, that's
in
all
favor.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
That's all Tom Brady. I mean, in Atlanta, you got a rookie quarterback making his first start in Des Ridder this coming week. They were off this week. And in Carolina, you got Sam Darnold. He played well yesterday, but, I mean, the guy's a stiff. All right.
All right, one more NFL game.
One more NFL game. Bengals across the board, all winners. And then we had the Crosstown Shootout.
You know what? I don't want it overlooked that Casey and I sang the song and the Bengals still won.
They did.
I don't want that overlooked.
Maybe you guys can sing again on Friday.
All right, next one. Now, if you were watching the show on Friday, we had it at 4.5. The line actually came out at 2.5. We all picked the same thing, and Xavier covered. So,
And
because of that, Tom.
let me see. That's 1, 2.
So I went into the week, correct me if I'm wrong, at 74-71.
Yep.
And what does it look like now?
Well,
Oh, my. Oh, my, boys.
I think that's an undefeated week, Tom.
8-0. Maybe I should start doing videos on TikTok and making some money.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what, boys, we got a wait a minute. Go back to that a second.
All right.
How is it that there's a 5-game spread in the win column and there's a 3-game spread in the loss? Does that all add up?
It should.
No, because 82-71. I don't do math in public.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
But that's 153 games. You and Casey have far more than 153.
Okay.
Can somebody explain that to me?
Casey.
Is this like the Arizona voting deal?
Oh, boy.
No.
Casey,
where the
what-
machines all of a sudden, the day of the election and the day after, the voting machines don't work?
What happened, Casey?
I mean, the numbers were right last week, right? I'm just looking at it right now, and those look fine, right?
I mean, what is going? This is election integrity stuff.
I don't know.
We
Well,
get enough of that every day in the
Hold
news,
on,
and now
hold
all of a
on.
sudden, come on.
Hold on a second. I'm about to do the math on this real quick, because I've been the one keeping track all season.
The worst mathematician in this room, perhaps in this fair city of Hamilton, is sitting in this chair right here, right now. And I was the one that had to catch that.
No, you caught it. Yeah, I went 4-4, right?
Yes.
I took 2 more. You put me at 68.
So
Oh,
you should
my
be-
God.
that should
This
be
is
62.
unbelievable.
Hold on.
This is unbelievable.
We're gonna hold on. All right. There's
Where's
6.
Stacey Abrams when you need her?
What?
And I went 3. Yeah. So I just did the math wrong on the loss column.
You liked that, didn't you, Brandon?
Well, you had 5 wins.
I had 5 wins, so 3 losses.
Okay, so
Everett liked it.
Yeah. So
66.
yeah, we're still tied.
We're still tied. You just did.
I
it.
gave us 2 extra losses. Tom.
No, we don't need that. All right.
My bad.
So
So-
now here we go.
So what does it look
this
like,
is right.
please?
This is what.
Kerry Lake on line 2.
This is right.
Oh, so I just went from a 3-game deficit now to a 5-game deficit.
Yes.
I should have probably not caught that.
No, you probably shouldn't have. That's okay though.
Okay,
I mean,
but we're right back in the hunt, an 8-0 week. That's the first undefeated week by anybody. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
I should get double the points for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
I mean, you said you didn't want to
8-0
do that
is
stuff.
8-0.
You didn't want to do any of the double dipping or double or nothing. This week.
I am glad that we all picked Xavier, so we didn't have any kind of a because we did agree that pick was going to get thrown out if the line moved too crazy. But I mean, it was 2.5. So
I felt bad not picking UC in that game. I thought just with the rivalry being at home and you know the whole deal. By the way, shifting gears to that for a second, I want to ask you, Casey, you were there.
Yep.
I mean, Paul, you were there.
did you?
You know, there have been a lot of you weren't there, were you, Casey?
No, I was not
You
there.
sure? You want to change
He
your
was
mind?
at the Bengals game.
I thought you said Paul, and I just was agreeing with
Casey.
you. Like, yep, Paul was there.
But it's Paul.
It's Paul.
You know, I didn't watch the whole thing, and when it got to be a big spread, it's 13-1, I think, out of the gate. Right?
Yeah.
They led by 17 at halftime. So I'm the first guy to say, you know, I'm done. I went and started working out, and then all of a sudden, it's a you know, whatever it was, 3-point game late, and then DeJulius 4-point game, hits a 3, free throw to tie. I heard a lot of people yelling and screaming on Twitter about the officiating. Was there anything about the officiating one where I normally don't like getting into that, but was that a big deal?
I don't think necessarily that the foul situation was terrible. There was a situation at the end of the game where Cincinnati was out of timeouts. And this was a bigger point that I thought not enough people were talking about.
This was really interesting.
There was immediate timeout with 3:42 left in the game. There were 16 minutes of gameplay, or 16 seconds rather. David DeJulius hit a shot. Wes Miller then called his final timeout with 3:26 left in the game. So you're going into the final 3:26 of the Crosstown Shootout without a timeout.
Right.
Okay? Xavier and Cincinnati come down the court. DeJulius hits the shot with about 10 seconds left in the game. And 1-3. They were down 4. He makes the free throw. He ties the game. Xavier comes down the other side of the court with the ball and 10 seconds left. Sule Boom has it. They set a high screen. Locken gets blown by. Sule Boom gets right to the rim, draws Locken's 5th foul. And then with 1.2 seconds left, Boom goes to the free throw line, makes the first free throw, and you can see Wes Miller down along the sideline talking to the official.
Yep.
What we found out later, asking about was, if I call a timeout here without a timeout remaining, do I get the ball back after the technical free throws? Official obviously said yes. And so everybody in the stands is thinking, oh, my goodness, do we have a Michigan Juwan Howard situation, calling a timeout without any timeouts remaining? But then you realize, no, maybe it was a smart decision that he calls a timeout after Sule Boom misses.
But the official told him before the free throw, if you're going to do it, you got to tell me right now.
Yes.
Right.
And he clarified and he said, okay, I'm going to take the timeout. So Boom misses the second free throw on purpose, which you could tell that was on purpose. Because otherwise it just clanks off the rim. You're going to turn around, throw a full court shot, and the game's over. They call a timeout. Cincinnati does. Technical foul. Sule Boom goes, hits the 2 free throws to put Xavier up 3. But Cincinnati, because of the timeout, gets to go back, bring the huddle over, draw up a full court pass type of play to set something up to tie the game, to send the game to overtime. The inbound pass ended up being deflected by Jack Nungy, and it didn't end up mattering in the end anyway.
That's tough.
So, I look at it and I say to myself, there were a whole laundry list of reasons why Cincinnati lost that game, and pretty far toward the bottom of which are a technical timeout at the very end of the game. But my bigger question, and I haven't gotten a chance to go back and rewatch the situation, is why he called his final timeout with 3:26 left in the game. This whole situation at the end of the game is kind of water under the bridge.
I thought the end of the game thing was a brilliant move. I did not know, and look, I follow a lot of basketball, but I thought after every technical foul, the team that shot the free throws gets the ball back.
Which is why all of us were very confused why he was doing it, because if I had known immediately that they were going to get the ball back, then it would have been pretty obvious. But as we were all sitting there trying to figure out why in the world are they calling a timeout, because it seemed obvious like he knew what he was doing. But if you're not going to get the ball back with a second left, then what's the point in the first place? But anyway, it ended up not really mattering in the end because they didn't even complete the inbound pass. So
USA veteran boy says, look at the Army.
Yeah, look at the
we
Army.
Always salute him every day, and we always salute our good buddy Brian Billick, Super Bowl winning head coach. He joins us as always. Coach, lots and lots and lots to think about and talk about. Let's start your old team, the Baltimore Ravens. I tell you what, man, it doesn't matter what happens. They find a way to keep winning games, Coach. It may not be pretty. It may not be winning by double digits, but, man, they just find ways to win.
Well, when you run the ball for 215 yards against the Steelers, and the Steelers knowing that with Tyler Huntley in, they probably were not going to throw the ball as much. They only threw the ball 12 times. That was impressive. And it's like, okay, we're going to run regardless whether we're going to run. And they just kept doing it. And it was typical Steeler-Ravens game was going to come down to a single score. That seems to be the trend for forever in that series. And Tyler Huntley, I would tell you, even though he only threw it 12 times, he's capable of doing more. I like what I see in Tyler Huntley. I know he didn't win last year, But that wasn't necessarily just because of Tyler Huntley. So for however long Lamar is out going forward, I think they're in pretty good hands with Tyler Huntley, particularly if they're going to continue to run the ball the way they are.
Yeah, and it was great to get J.K. Dobbins back. I mean, look, I don't care if you're a big Bengals fan and you root against the Ravens to lose every game. Dobbins seems to be a great kid. Tore up his knee, 6 weeks out, comes back, plays really well. But, Coach, when you're sitting there and you're kind of waiting around in this day and age, I mean, it's tricky business. Mike Tomlin even acknowledged it after the game in regard to Kenny Pickett yesterday about this whole concussion thing and protocol, and they're making changes as we kind of go along during the season. If you're the head coach and you're John Harbaugh right now, you know more than likely you're not going to have Lamar Jackson this coming week. At least you don't think so. They could surprise us and he comes back. But Huntley goes out with a concussion. And then you got this Anthony Brown guy who was just activated off the practice squad, an undrafted quarterback out of Oregon. What's game planning like this week if you're the head coach of the Ravens?
Well, they're going to play I think they play the Browns this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And the challenge, if they've got to, Greg Roman's got to look and say, well, can I duplicate what we just did? Can I throw the ball just, less than 20 times and run the ball 40 plus times, chew up the clock in the way we do? Then that's going to be the game plan. Now the problem becomes, and the Browns are capable, particularly with Deshaun Watson continuing to mature a little bit within what they're doing and open it up a little bit. If they turn it into a quasi track meet, then you got a problem, and you'll have the game plan ready for it. But I don't know that I want to be throwing the ball 35 times with Anthony Brown coming off the bench.
Injuries are becoming a major factor for many, many teams around the NFL, and you start right here in Cincinnati where they put T. Higgins on the injury report with a hamstring. Last couple of days of last week kind of showed up out of nowhere. He plays one play in the game. Tyler Boyd injures his finger the second play of the game, does not return. Trey Hendrickson breaks his wrist. He stayed in the game, but he's going to be out for quite a while. Let me start on the offensive side. The Bengals were able to get through it all. Their depth, I think, has been one of the biggest stories in the NFL this season, that no matter who goes down, they find a way to pick up the pieces and get things done. Hayden Hurst did not play this week. Where's that fine line, Brian? Let's just say, and I'm not going to ask you to diagnose Tyler Boyd, but where is that fine line as a coach where you're saying, okay, if a guy's out with a knee injury or something like that, obviously he's not going to play. Where's that fine line of saying, hey, man, we got 4 weeks to go. We got to win this division and get in the playoffs, as opposed to maybe missing a game here or there?
Particularly when you're talking about hamstrings, that is one where that's always the question I would have for the doctors when you had a player with an injury and you question him, is he going to play this week or not? The question becomes, one, can he injure it substantially more by playing than if he doesn't play? What's the difference in the prognosis for the injury if we lay him out a week or 2 weeks compared to playing him? And if the doctors say, well, he can be significantly better in 2 weeks, well, then you got to think about laying him out. If they're saying, well, it's a hit and miss and it's iffy, it's 50-50, well, then you're thinking, okay, if I'm going to flip a coin, then let's go ahead and play him. So that's always the question that you have. And you're right about the injuries. Everybody has them going down the stretch in this dash for the cash, we used to call it in December, and getting to the playoffs. Injuries are going to be a factor for everybody in the league. How great was it to get Joe Mixon back, and him come back. And now you got the combination of Mixon and Pirine. That's pretty good. And as long as you have Jamar Chase, if you can get Hurst back a little bit, they're going to be okay. And in that last game against the Ravens now I know they've got to play the Bills as well. And that's going to be the biggest challenge. The Ravens have a pretty pliable schedule there. They do have to play Pittsburgh again, but it's in Baltimore. But that last game with the Ravens versus Cincinnati, that's going to be a whole lot on the line for that game.
No doubt about it. Could be for the number 1 seed if the Bengals were to beat Buffalo that week before the Ravens come into town and both teams, quote unquote, win out up until that game. That's all the marbles. That's not only the division, could be the number 1 seed. For the Bengals, it would be the number 1 seed because they will have beaten, if that's the case, both Buffalo and Kansas City. Tom Brady, and we've talked a little bit about him. I don't know how much, Brian, you watched that game yesterday. They've had all kinds of injuries, devastating injuries along that offensive line. This guy's just getting pounded back there. And, the Bengals play him this week, and you never count out Tom Brady. But Brian, it's just hard to watch.
Well, we always and you're right. It has less to do with Tom Brady. Everybody for years now have been saying, okay, when's it going to end for Tom Brady? And no one wants to, I'm not going to be the one to say, no, he's done. But we also knew that when the decline started, it would be precipitous, that it would be quick, even though he's in great shape and the things that he does. But this is what's going on around Tom Brady, like you said, with the offensive line. And certainly at this point in his career, that's, he's not going to be able to do some of the things that maybe he did when he was younger to escape and avoid that. So it's not good. They're just not a very good football team right now. Now, you can't underestimate them. And obviously it is still Tom Brady. But you have to give San Francisco credit too now. They've that defense, their ability to run the ball, they ran for the ball for over 200 times. They kept just what we talked about with Brock Purdy, the wonderkid now, that Mr. Irrelevant coming in. He only had to throw it 21 times. They ran it 36 times. So that formula that San Francisco loves to have, everybody does if you can do it, but run the ball, keep the pitch count down, play really good defense, get the turnovers like they did against Tom Brady, which is rare. That's a pretty good formula for them. So a lot of it had to do with the fact that San Francisco is pretty darn good.
Brian, last thing I want to ask you about is, one of the great stories right now in the NFL is Detroit. This team just looked terrible per usual. You hate to say it. Early in the year, and now all of a sudden, they've won, 6 of their last 7, I think it is, 5 of their last 6, something like that. They're a game and a half out of the playoffs. This team is playing like a team that looks like a playoff team. I mean, they just hammered Minnesota yesterday. That wasn't even a game.
You got to give Dan Campbell and Detroit credit, because you're right. They are kind of like the black hole. Things just go in there and you never see them again. I did a show a week in Minnesota, and it was stunning that Detroit was favored in that game. It was only 2, but they were favored because of there's something about the history and at that stage and when the records, they went through the whole thing with me, and I thought, boy, Detroit favored over Minnesota the way Minnesota's playing. Are you kidding me? At 10-2. But you're right, and it obviously held up. And you're right. It's good to see, too. Detroit, you'd love to, regardless of who your allegiances are with, you'd love to see Detroit finally kind of scratch out and be fairly relevant. They are. They're just on the cusp of it. And Minnesota's okay, but we also saw, other than Philadelphia, who continues to roll, Dallas was in a close game with Houston. That could have either gone the other way, too, which was a real shocker. So, outside of Philadelphia, the top teams in the NFC, Minnesota and Dallas, along with them, show some signs of, maybe on any given day they are vulnerable.
Yeah, and the last team, Brian, I want to ask you about, speaking of looking vulnerable because they looked good for so long, is Miami. Now all of a sudden, they've played a couple of teams, one very much in playoff contention. They get hammered by the 49ers 2 weeks ago. They go out to play the Chargers, who have injuries all over the place. I mean, that might be the single most injured team in the NFL this year, especially on defense. Miami looks terrible, just terrible.
Well, and part of it, and not to make excuse for it, because we talk all the time about West Coast going to East Coast and East Coast going to West Coast. Miami, you're right. They're in a run here now that they're 3 games on the road. They were at San Francisco. They stayed out there, which is always hard to do, even though the weather's nice or whatever. So they go down and play the Chargers. Now they come home. They got to go up to Buffalo. So they've had 3 road games, 2 West Coast runs. Now come home. They got to go up to Buffalo. And we see that Miami's a good, solid team. Their record and who they were against is certainly a factor. And now that they've got into a litany of some pretty good teams, we're finding out what they really are. They're certainly capable. They're a playoff capable team, but I don't know. I don't know that I'd put them at any point in the upper echelon of the AFC. And we're certainly going to find out their ability. This would be a real statement game for them. Tua was 10 of 28. Everybody's still talking about, is this a guy or not? I don't know that we. And certainly to go on the road to Buffalo against Josh Allen and get a win would certainly help, quail a little bit of those discussions about, is this a guy or not?
Yeah. All right, Brian, I know they're getting all fired up there in Columbus, Ohio. Couple of weeks away from the big one, taking on number 1 Georgia. I want you to start gathering all your information, looking at all the film, and in about the next week or so, we're going to have you give us your picks of that college Final Four.
Yeah, see, they're already calling me wanting those picks too. It's a piece of cake. They got Georgia easily. I can't imagine Ohio State not being favored by 2-3 touchdowns in that game.
Hey, did you watch, by the way, before I let you go, because I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show. Did you see or hear any of the Caleb Williams Heisman Trophy speech?
I did not.
I got to tell you, I would encourage you, and I said it to our audience a little bit earlier. That kid's story is just unbelievable, starting with his father. And, man, if there is any illustration about the importance of a father in a son's life, and moms with daughters and moms and sons and dads and daughters, but having this kid's dad around, and starting when he was in 8th grade, he told his dad, he says, "Dad, I love football." And this was after being told by the coach in football that he was too small and he wasn't going to be a quarterback. And he's in the car with his dad, and he says, "Dad, I love the smell of football. I love the language of football. I love everything about football." And his dad looks at him and says, "Okay, it's one thing to talk about it. Let's see if you're ready for a plan." They come up with this plan, and for the next 5 years, this kid gets up with his dad at 5 o'clock in the morning, works out before school, goes to school, comes home after school, works out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and on Saturday he's a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, great stories, and it again underlines the role that athletics can have, even if it had not turned out for him, and he had not become a good football player. Boy, the lessons learned. I just was at my grandson's basketball game last night, and they come down. They're down by 3. Kid kicks out. He's at the 3-point line, sinks it to put into overtime. They go into overtime, comes back, gets the last shot, sinks it for 2, and they win the game. You don't get lessons like that anyplace else. And for these young people and for this kid as well, I hope it's a reminder for all of us just how important that athletics can be. I know it can get overblown and people can become negative with it, but how important athletics can be in these young people's lives, and it's so great that it's still available to them.
No doubt about it. All right, Brian, thanks for your time, my friend. Keep coaching them up down there.
All right, we'll do it.
All right, buddy. Brian Billick, kind enough to join us and break it all down. I'm being really serious. I know it's the 3rd time now I've said it. I highly encourage you to watch that Williams kid. He hit everything you want to hit. USC brought his entire offensive line, brought them all out. They didn't know he was going to win the award. I mean, you thought he was going to win the award, but they brought them all out. I'm not a big USC guy in any form or fashion. It's the 8th Trojan to win the Heisman Trophy. That's pretty serious. 8 of them. And 1 they took away, so it doesn't count. Reggie Bush. He was the best of all those guys.
What are the chances that gets reinstated? How do we do that?
What's that?
Get that reinstated.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, enough is enough. Good Lord.
I've never understood the taking things away punishment. Like Louisville's 2013 national championship. They still won it.
That's right.
What are we doing?
That's right.
I don't does anybody know why that's a thing? Like doesn't Rick Pitino have a tattoo of the 2013 national championship? I mean,
what would you do about the Astros?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I mean, like,
but but they cheated to win the title.
Well, so did SC.
No, they didn't.
With Reggie Bush? Are you kidding me?
They paid him.
That's cheating.
But that's not on the field contributing.
Okay, all right, I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. I see what, but like what the Astros did directly impacted whether they won or lost games.
There's no question. And by the way, thank you, M. Foster. So if you include Reggie Bush, that would be 8. Yes.
Yeah.
It would be 8. I want to get back to Dwayne for a minute. Dwayne, look, I hope you're not upset with me. Okay? You haven't chimed in since, you let me have it a little bit earlier. Nobody's being pessimistic here. We're just talking about injuries that teams are dealing with. I didn't get a chance to get into it about the Deebo Samuel thing.
Yeah, that's tough. And the 49ers are still the team I don't want to face, even if he's gone long term.
Well, the only 2 teams with a 5-game winning streak right now are the 49ers and your Cincinnati Bengals.
Eagles, maybe?
Not 5 in a row, I don't think.
Not 5, maybe 4. And I don't remember when they lost.
Trying to see here real quick. Philadelphia. It's hard to believe they haven't won 5 in a row, right? No, they've won 4 in a row. They lost to the Washington Football Wizards. And they have since beaten the Colts, the Packers, the Titans, and the G-Men. They have left on their schedule at the Bears, at the Cowboys, the Saints, and the G-Men again.
Well,
last game of the year. They max will lose 2, and if I were a betting man, they're going to win all those games, including at Dallas.
Yeah, I was just about to say we should wait until they play Dallas to really crown them the NFC for sure Super Bowl favorite, because they didn't play a very good schedule this year. From what Philly. I think some of their
No, I'm with you. I mean, in fact, you're right. You're spot on. I mean, they've beaten the Lions the first game. They beat the Vikings, destroyed them. Commanders, Jaguars, beat them. Cardinals, Cowboys, beat them. Okay, Steelers, Texans, beating the Colts.
Yeah,
Titans aren't playing well. Packers are bad. I mean, that's a legitimate point.
Yeah, I was just about to say the only team I found that had legitimacy was the Cowboys, and even that is kind of with Dak Prescott at quarterback. So I mean, we'll see. Let's see how they do against Cowboys again.
Yeah, that'll be a big game.
No, I just want to say real quick, since we have a massive audience here. This is one of the biggest shows we've done. I just want to make sure we say again that go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to listen to this in podcast form, you can just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman. It's on every podcast network you could want. So go back and subscribe and listen there. Just in case you missed that at the beginning of the show, you can subscribe, share it around. Thanks to everybody for watching today.
Yeah, and Phil S. jumps in. The only way you can stop batted balls, and doggone it, I forgot to ask Brian Billick, it says it's to chop block one time, the guy who's jumping up in the ball, and he'll stop trying to do that.
Yeah, my best man, Thomas, he was an offensive lineman coach, played at Tiffin University, a D2 school, almost had an opportunity to really go forward with it long term. He just loses his mind every time that Joe Burrow gets a ball swatted, because he's like, our guys are just not punching those guys in the gut. They need to just lay them out. Don't let them jump up like that.
Yep.
And Joe Burrow, too, needs to learn how to pump fake. I think I'm officially on board. I was trying to combat that a few weeks ago. My father-in-law and my future brother-in-law were just on me about it. Like, Joe Burrow needs to learn how to pump fake. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. He's only got like 10 swatted balls. I know it leads the league or whatnot, but now 25? We're at 25 already?
Yeah, but, a lot of those times, you talk about pump fake, and that's an extra. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know, okay? I'm not going to sit here and try to claim anything about it, because I know nothing about it. I was never a quarterback. I can only dream about being a quarterback. But, a lot of those times, your receiver's only open for a split second.
Yeah.
And you pump fake one time, and now it's too late. And that leads to a pick. Of course, the batted balls haven't led to picks yet. Paul pointed out earlier, how long does that last? Other times, maybe you're setting up the screen, right? And, okay, the same thing. You got two blockers out in front of the guy. If you pump fake one time, now you can get an illegal man downfield. you can all of a sudden try to dump it off and the guys fight through the blocks. Look, it's something I'm sure that they're talking about down at Paycor today. They'll go down there and just kind of get some of the cobwebs out and the bumps and bruises and that kind of thing. But the bottom line is simply this. Through everything there is, if the Bengals win out, this is all and look, it's not going to be easy. There's no doubt about it. They're going down to Tampa Bay. They're playing a team in New England that's fighting to try to get in the playoffs. Okay, it's at New England. And granted, their offense at times has looked terrible, but they've had some games where their offense looked very good. The only team they lay an egg against, and I mean totally lay an egg against, is Buffalo. Buffalo's one, they just got their number. But everybody else, it's kind of one or the other when they play them on offense. You got Buffalo here. That's a big deal. And the Ravens here. If the Bengals win out, they are the number 1 seed in the AFC going into the playoffs. They're the only team that would get a bye in the opening round.
I actually don't think that's the case. If you look at the Chiefs' schedule, I don't think they're going to lose another game, and we wouldn't be able to.
You know what? You're right about that. You're right. I forgot. The Chiefs only have 3 losses, so I beg your pardon on that. Okay.
But still, I mean,
no, you're spot on.
But the point still stands that we would move up to at least 2. Like, we would still be up there in seeding if we went out.
I got to tell you, though, Casey, the more I look at this thing,
yeah,
if you're not going to be the number 1 seed, okay, I'm not so sure that them being the 5 seed, the way things are going in that AFC South, is not so bad.
Right.
Number 2 seed, you're going to have to play the first round, okay, and you would get the second game theoretically at home. So that's a big deal. Whereas you go in the 5 seed, you beat Tennessee, right?
Yep.
And you'd have to play them in Tennessee because they're a divisional champ. Then you'd have to go on the road and play Buffalo, depending on how the other games played out. But if they all played out according to seed, the 2 and 3 seed would play, right, and the 1 and 5, in this case, seed, would play in Buffalo. Which would you rather do? You'd rather be a 2 seed because you get a home game.
Yeah, I mean, I would want as many home games as possible just for that home crowd advantage. But if you looked at the playoff picture, which I do have here.
Well, let's pull it up. So here's the deal.
We got it here.
So here's the way it would work, okay? And if you can blow it up a little bit, this is the way it would look, okay? The Bengals, we said, would have to play as a 5 seed. They'd have to play at Tennessee. Now, if the Ravens as a 3 and the Chiefs as a 2 both win, the 2 and 3 would play in Kansas City. Okay, now if you get an upset somewhere in there, it changes everything. But let's just say it plays out this way. So as a 2 seed, Kansas City would get a home game. But they're going to play that Chargers team in the first round. Would you rather play the Titans or the Chargers right now? Would you rather play the Titans or the Dolphins right now?
Titans.
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. Then you look on the other side, and man, does that have a chance to change here? Dramatically change. Philadelphia's already clinched a playoff spot. Dallas for sure is going to be in, and Minnesota's going to be in. The Niners are going to be in. But those other 3 teams that are in there right now, the Giants, the Washington Football Wizards, and Tampa Bay, all 3, 2, 1, none could be in by the time we get to the end of the season.
How about the Cowboys putting up a 10-3 record this year and having a great season, but oh whoops, the Eagles are 12-1.
I'm sure that just boils their blood.
Oh man, Jerry Jones, he's got to be pissed. Finally put a good product out on the field. We got
Jerry's fine. Kansas City's schedule, oh, boy, you're right, Casey. It's a
cakewalk.
How does a first-place team from last year have this schedule?
I know. It's terrible.
I mean, come on. Now, you play in your division. Your division is what it is. Apologize for it, even if the division stinks. They got the Texans this week.
Yeah, they play the AFC South.
Yeah, they play the Seahawks. That's not a layup, but it's, it's at home. They have the Broncos again. Although, I got to say, Mahomes lately has, even though they are what they are, he has made some critical turnovers here of late. He got away with it yesterday.
It's a conversation we can have.
And the Raiders. They play the Raiders, the last game of the year. Casey, who they playing?
The Raiders.
No, that was weak. Boy, last week was good. That was brutal. It was brutal. Brutal. So, yeah, it's more than conceivable that the Chiefs would end up with a number 1 seed, because if they win out, they'll have the best record. The Bengals could slot somewhere depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
Tom, what is the Zim Who Dey status?
Zim Who Dey, 11:30.
Okay.
Let's go.
Coming up in a couple minutes.
Zim Who Dey. He's ready to go.
The one thing that I don't think this is this correct? Jacksonville's 5-8. I thought they were more than that. But anyways,
no, that's what they are.
The one team that I'm super excited for is Detroit. And I know you kind of teased it a little bit, how they were playing a little bit better, but it's conceivable. And same with Jacksonville too. They actually just beat Tennessee, didn't they?
Yeah.
They just beat Tennessee. We on the other show,
Tennessee's fading fast. I don't know what the hell's going on down there, but they are just, they can't run the ball.
No. Derrick Henry, I don't want to say I predicted this because I didn't say it on the show, but if you talk to some of my family, some of my close friends, I told them that this is not sustainable with Derrick Henry, what they're doing, especially when they lost some guys on the offensive line. And Derrick Henry is just getting older. I think that's a factor. He's getting more injuries. He can't do this for a sustained period of time. No one can. Even if they are a guy like Derrick Henry who's just a physical specimen. I didn't want to say I knew this would happen, but it felt like it was inevitable that they would start to not be able to rely on the run game as much. And when they need to rely on Ryan Tannehill, he's not turned it over, but he's not scored a lot. And their receivers are what they are. I mean, I like Trey Burks, but the team is struggling a bit.
Yeah, they are.
They need to find a better offensive identity. But what I was going to say was, we on the other show on Box Lunch, we picked 2 teams that we thought could make a sneaky playoff run. We chose the Lions, which they're right there. They're right in the mix. If they win out, they have a very serious chance of making it in. And the Jaguars. And the funny thing about the Jaguars
they're not getting in.
Listen, hang on. Listen to this scenario, Tom, because they can get in if Tennessee loses one more time to either Dallas or Texas, the Texans, which it would be probably against Dallas, right? That's feasible. And if the Jaguars win out, which involves beating the Titans again.
Ain't happening.
You don't think that's going to happen?
No, I don't. I think whenever the Jaguars get into a game where they got to win a game, and look, that's been infrequent for a long time, they're not going to do it. But look, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. You bring up a good point.
I mean, it's not completely like –
that's Seho's guy, Trevor Lawrence.
T-Law. But, I mean, it's not like they're in their own they control their own destiny, that sort of scenario. They have to have some things fall their way, like Tennessee losing another game. But I think it's feasible with the way Tennessee's been playing and the way they beat Tennessee this week. I mean, it wasn't like they barely snuck out with a win.
You're right.
They beat Tennessee.
You're right.
So
what was that quarterback they call him with the long hair from the movie?
Oh,
Sunshine?
Yeah, Sunshine yeah.
What was that? Paul, you got to be kidding. You don't know the movie?
Remember the Titans?
Yeah,
right?
Are you kidding?
Oh, my God, yeah.
One of the great movies of all time. Sunshine! Long hair. Looking good. T. Lawrence. No.
Not quite yet.
Although, I have to tell you, collegiately, he was a leader of young men. Young men. Because he Sir Boy Wonder keeps coming back. I was a guy talking up the Titans early. I didn't think all of Casey was the brilliant one in this operation. I thought they'd continue to be able to run it. Zachary says Detroit is legit.
They are. They are legit. And what's so crazy is no one saw their offense coming. But you can ask Trace and I. We both kind of saw it coming that they would have some sort of passing attack, and they have a good running back duo back there with Williams and Swift, change of pace types of guys. And what's funny is they're doing this without who we thought would be the main focal point of their offense with T.J. Hawkinson. They shipped him, and they haven't missed a beat, which is crazy. It's honestly kudos to the Lions for how they've been performing, how they've been playing, and they're really set up long-term for success. Didn't they have that trade with the Saints last year in the draft?
They did. They got to make a decision on the quarterback. And I have to say, I have not been a big golf guy all the years he was there with the Rams. And, I was just never a big fan. But you cannot deny that this guy is playing great football. I mentioned earlier he's not thrown an interception in the last 5 games. He throws for 330 yards yesterday and 3 touchdowns. Now, their schedule, bad news for them is 3 of the last 4 on the road.
That's tough.
That's tough for the Detroit Lions, the Fighting Chris Spielmans, as we call them. They have to go to the Jets. Jets aren't great, but,
That's feasible.
It's feasible. They go to the Panthers, another team in the hunt.
That's feasible.
They play the Bears at home. And then they go to Lambeau Field.
All those
in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the frozen tundra.
All those are possible wins to me.
Yeah, but I mean, they're facing teams that are like them. They're hungry for the playoffs. Jets. They're all right. I mean, go figure. The Bears and look, Fields is healthy. If he's healthy, what he can do to you, and then you go to the Packers in what could well be. I mean, could you imagine that game, the drama of that game? If the Lions go into Green Bay, the Lions being a story themselves, right, with a chance to make the playoffs, say, if they win the game, and all the drama that will be out there about the possibility of Aaron Rodgers playing his final game as a Packer at Lambeau Field. If you're NBC, that's the game that you're dreaming about right there. More than any other game on the schedule, even more than the Bengals-Ravens, because the Bengals-Ravens are going to be in, right?
Right.
Generally, NBC picks that last game of the year on Sunday night where it's an in or done game for somebody, if not both. They've lucked out in the past where it's been head-to-head teams. Whoever wins it gets in, whoever loses it is out. But could you imagine if Detroit and that last game and they have to win to get in the playoffs, the final playoff spot, and Aaron Rodgers, maybe his last game as a Green Bay Packer at Lambeau?
Speak it into existence, Tom. Speak it into existence.
Okay. Have we heard from Zim Who Dey yet, or is he still MIA?
Still MIA.
He's probably still celebrating.
Honestly, yeah. He probably is.
Probably out in the woods.
He needed to do some serious meditation after the amount of excitement and adrenaline that rushed through his body, because we finally beat the stinking Browns.
Speaking of stinking, do you have it? Oh, we don't have it.
What do we have?
I can pull it back up, but I did make a early stink list for this week.
Oh, really?
Oh, boy.
And this one I know is not going to be you're not going to like this one, Tom. I can just tell you that right off the bat. But
Well,
are you
take a look.
Bring it up. Just pop it on the screen.
All right, you've got Buffalo still ahead of the Bengalis. Philadelphia first, no surprise. Kansas City, I got no problem with that first line. Wait a minute, did you just misplace those teams?
I did not misplace those teams.
So the Dallas Cowboys are 10-3, and you don't think they're a borderline good team? You mean to tell me that after the top 5 teams in a league, Minnesota's lost, 3?
Yep.
Dallas has lost 3.
Yep.
I get it with Miami, Seattle, Chargers, Tennessee, Ravens. They got uncertainty at quarterback. I get it with the Patriots, the football Wizards, and the Jets. But you mean to tell me you can't put Dallas and Minnesota on that borderline good, or at least Dallas at the minimum?
Well, the Vikings are frauds.
Okay.
and they can only win when it's 1 p.m., but they lost at 1 p.m. So what does that really tell us? I don't know. Maybe they're not that great. And Dallas, they almost lost to the Texans. I mean, I get it. A win's a win, but this was a game where they were favored by 17.5 points or something like that, 17 total points. And you're telling me that it came down to the wire, it came down to one last drive to be able to edge them out, that the Texans were almost favored to win the game. The live line had them winning the game at like a 65% win rate at one point.
Dude, how do you have the
on.
Cowboys to beat the Vikings 40-3?
They're out of the Vikings.
Okay. They're ahead of the Vikings. How do you not have them at least on the borderline good line?
I think if you did this one to the bottom.
I think if he did it without drinking first, we might be all right.
I made it this morning.
Well,
like I said,
I had my Pawnee water. I had my Pawnee water, and I feel good, and I was like, all right, here we go. Let's stir the pot a little bit.
What was
this
in
is how I
that
truly
Pawnee
feel.
water? A little bourbon?
Some little alkaline water.
A little bourbon?
You want to tee up the alkaline water read at all?
Do we have
with
it?
that? Do we got it?
No, but I can tell you, I ran into the guys the other day across the street where Pawnee is located right here in downtown Hamilton. And if you haven't heard us talk about it, I was the biggest, and I had a friend of mine say the same thing to me over the weekend because he went and found some Pawnee water because he watches our show regularly. And he said, look, you got a sponsor. They're paying for advertising. I get it. You got to suck up to them, right? He's like, there's no way there is a difference in tasting water. He said at the end of the day with, this kind of stuff, or pick any other ones you can buy anywhere. I'm not talking about tap water all the time. That can vary place to place. We know that. But he says, look, I was very skeptical. And he said, and then I tried it. It's Pawnee water, P-A-H-N-N-I. And the filtration system, everything is all natural. They're not using this artificial stuff. Start calling some of your favorite grocers or wherever, because they're trying to get in more and more stores. If you go to Pawnee, P-A-H-H-N-I, water.com, P-A-H-H-N-I, water.com, you'll be able to find out where you can buy it. It does taste different.
It does. I really enjoy it. And after drinking that water, I came up with this beautiful, beautiful list, I should say. And I don't see anything wrong with it, honestly. I saw some of the comments earlier that said that the Broncos should be in the stench category. And I would maybe agree with you if they hadn't put up such a good fight against Kansas City. I mean, if anything, I should just add Russell Wilson into the smelly stench category. The Broncos defense is legit. Everything else around them just sucks. I mean, it just is. I don't get it.
Well, they've been
I don't
injured.
understand.
Offensive line, I mean, decimated 3 of the 5 guys that were there at the beginning. And I'm not making excuses for Russell Wilson, but boy, they're bad.
Yeah, and honestly, I should have moved the Lions up to the top of the stink list. Honestly, I have so much faith in them. I really think that they can get something going here towards the end of the season. It'll be a shame if they don't make it in, honestly.
It really will be. And I'm rooting. I call him the Battling Chris Spielmans because he's my longtime partner on NFL games. Great player, phenomenal player. But he helped put together that whole thing to hire Dan Campbell when they didn't have a GM. They had fired everybody 2 years ago. In fact, Chris Spielman was in the middle of a football season broadcasting for Fox. He was doing a Bengals game here 2 Novembers ago. And I went out to dinner with him on Saturday night. Game was on Sunday, just the two of us. And he says, hey, tomorrow's my last game in the booth. I'm going to work for the Lions. Owner called him up, said, I want you to come on board. We need to change a culture around here. He was one of their great players. He's also a fascinating man. We'd love to get him on as a big interview sometime soon. For many of you that don't remember, outside of Olympic athletes, okay, so like, the Mary Lou Rettons of the world and that kind of thing, he was the first amateur team sport player as a high schooler to ever be put on a Wheaties box. He was at Massillon High School in Massillon, Ohio, as a senior in high school. Arguably the most recruited high school football player in the history of college and high school football. He was on the cover of a Wheaties box. That's how good he was. But anyway, he ends up going to Ohio State, ends up in the NFL, Pro Bowler, blah, 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 blah. Had to retire 3 times because his wife, 3 different bouts of breast cancer. She eventually died. They have named at the James Center up at Ohio State University, the Breast Cancer Research Center there is named the Stephanie Spielman Cancer Center. He's an amazing man. But anyway, he was part of the guy that they brought in, interviewed all these different coaches. I talked to him on the phone. He's like, I think we're going to hire this Dan Campbell guy. There's something about this guy. And they didn't have a general manager yet. So Spielman and the owner and a couple of others are all in there. They hire Campbell. Then they bring in the GM. They hire him. Spiels kind of steps back now, and he just, he's all about the relationship between the office employees and the team and feeling like there should be a connection there. And that's what he's doing now, but we got to get him on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
No Zim Who Dey yet.
Would you say that Chris is,
No, there's no question about it. If you're talking about Chris Spielman and asking me, is Chris Spielman a leader of men? You better believe it, brother. More so than just about anybody I've met in my life. He is up here in my book, man. And there's nobody above him as far as people that walk the planet. He is number 1. Leader of men, Spiels. Son of Sonny Spielman, legendary coach at Massillon in Ohio. Sir Boy Wonder loves Dan Campbell.
I love the nickname, too, that people give him. DCMC.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, or MCDC, or whatever they say. Motor City Dan Campbell.
Motor City Dan Campbell is what they're calling him. Yep.
The Fighting MCDCs.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Zim. He normally is very reliable. The MCDCs. The Dan Campbells. Do you honestly think they're going to get in? Honestly.
I
tell the truth. I just gave you their schedule. Do you really believe they're going to get in? They need help because, one of their problems is, before you answer the question, is one of the problems is a couple of the teams ahead of them, the Washington Football Wizards and the Giants, are all playing one another, right? So one of them's going to gain ground. They tied the first time, if I'm not mistaken, the Commanders and the Giants, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to have to play again. So somebody wins, somebody loses. So they're going to have to find a way for those teams to do whatever they do and then lose a bunch of other games. And Jolly from California says Zim has become as reliable as the power grid here in California. Oh, boy, don't even get me started.
There he is.
Wait. Hold on. We've hit the jackpot. Here he is. Zim Who Dey. You've been out reflecting out in the woods a little bit, Zim, this morning?
Not today.
No?
Not today. How you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing good, man. You all right?
Yeah, man. I was taking my son to school, and I caught some terrible traffic. I was like, oh, my God. Have you said it? When's the last time you sat in 2 hours of traffic? That just gave me a headache.
That's not good.
Oh, my God.
That's not.
2 hours.
How's your son doing? I mean, did he watch the game with you yesterday, or does he kind of got to get out of the room when the game's on?
He's got to get out the room. Dad goes crazy. He knows, though. He has, like, this thing on his phone that, like, he looks up the score. So, like, if we lose, he'll be like, hey, you got another game coming up. Like, I don't know why he talks like I'm on the team. And if we win, he's real nonchalant. He's just like, yeah, I know. I saw the score. Y'all won.
You are on the team. I mean, basically, you are, a member of the Cincinnati Bengals roster for all intents and purposes. What's the sweatshirt? Is that something we can buy? What do you got going on there?
Oh, this is my guy, Strawberry Ice. I don't know if you know him. He's a real prominent guy in the Bengals community, but he does this. This is actually tied in with Joe Burrow's food pantry. I don't want to get the names wrong, but they made it. It's called Jackpot Joey. I cannot think of the guy's name that made it. I apologize. I'm so sorry. But my friend Strawberry Ice and the guy that made it, they sent me this, and a portion of everything that they sell goes to the Joe Burrow Food Pantry in Athens. So it's a real good cause. They sent me a bunch of gear last year, I believe, and I just wear it. It's super comfortable. Jackpot Joey.
Well, yeah,
and
it's
I don't know.
Strawberry Ice. He's asked me to be on his podcast. Is that something that's a good idea? Should I be on, Zim? I've been on your podcast, Cincinnati.
Yeah. Strawberry Ice is cool people, man. He's super energetic. At a tailgate, he's the wild guy. You might want to stay clear of him. He's a big guy too. He's like 6'5" too. So like,
Strawberry Ice. A man with a nickname Strawberry Ice is like 6'5". That sounds like some white guy who's dancing around and weighs $130.
He dances. He's like a big bear though. He's like 6'5". He got a ton of energy. You got to stay clear of him at a tailgate, though. He'll run you over, Tom. You got to be careful out there.
Right, there's no doubt.
I know you like to get in the trenches.
I do. I love getting in the trenches, and that's why I love you, Zim. And listen, let's start on the positive side. We said you exercised the demons, finally beating the Brownies. I mean, you were getting after some people now on Twitter. I mean, what's the line you use? You borrowed that Robert Saleh line about I'm collecting receipts on this stuff.
Well, this is the thing that's been going on. Is like I watched it for years happen, and I do this every week. The Chiefs, I thought I did a really good job with those receipts last week, but I do it every week throughout the year. I just collect them. They just fall into my lap. People just talk so crazy. I guess the way that they view football or talk trash is different than the way I talk football. Before a game, I generally respect my opponent. I look at the different things I think they're strong at, things that they're weak. I might say, hey, I think the Bengals might win. But you'll see on those receipts that I post, it's just like Joe Burrow's mid, he's trash. Jamar Chase is not a top 5 wide receiver. Nick Chubb is going to run all over us. Like all these different things. And one of my points is, and I don't do it for Bengals fans because Bengals fans have got some ugly tweets out there too. But one of my things is accountability. I feel like, and I do it for national pundits too. You'll see a couple of those on your timeline too. But they'll have these wild, crazy takes just based off of their preconceptions of what they think the Bengals are going to be. Their preconceptions even sometimes just flood into the actual game itself. Like last week, remember when we beat the Chiefs, everybody that thought the Chiefs would win, what they say? Oh, if Kelsey doesn't fumble the ball, that game goes different. But if you're a Bengal, but if you were just looking at the football game itself, you say, man, the Bengals were in a really good position the whole time. Tyler Boyd drops the pass. If Juju doesn't get the fourth down, you probably get blown out. But the way that people view games is objectively from the Bengals standpoint, and it carries on over to Twitter. And I like to let everybody see, and I like to use it as a learning lesson. Like, hey, you should respect the Bengals, and if you don't, Zim Who Dey is on your ass.
All right, let me ask you this.
Simple as that.
Are you a little worried at all, Zim? Your guy Mixon came back, looked really good. Happy for him. 14 carries, 96 yards, had the big 40-yard run. What's your level of concern about the Boyd and Higgins things?
I saw a report earlier that said that the Boyd one they just thought was a dislocation and it's just going to be like a pain thing. So I thought that was really good to hear no surgery. So that's the real good positive. I'm a little bit more concerned about the Trey Hendrickson one. Because a wrist break, everybody said just put a club on it. But a lot of his moves and different things, come from like his technique. And I don't know if he'll be smashing people with the club. I don't know how long he'll be out. Luckily for us, I think the next 2 games that we're playing, I think their interior offensive lines are really weak. So I do think that we can capitalize and get some good interior pressure. But I'm more concerned about that. The T. Higgins one, I just thought that Zach is going this conservative role this year where he understands. And I never forget this interview he had with the Rams one time. They were talking about what happened to Todd Gurley, and they thought that they misused him. And I could see the regret in McVay and Zach Taylor's eyes that just like, man, like had we done these things differently, we wouldn't have wore it down Todd Gurley. And I think he carries that with him I would love to ask him that one day. If you know him, let me know.
I don't know him, Zim. You know him better than I do, buddy. I mean, you're the guy. If
somebody gave me his number one
to Zach Taylor, it's going to be you. It's not going to be me.
Somebody gave me his number one time, coach, and I didn't call him. I feel like I wanted to know him personally. I didn't want to give him a weird phone call, but I think that he's going the conservative road with my boy Mixon. He did that for the last 2 weeks with the advancements and everything we know about CTE and different things like that. Hey, let's just ride this out, and I think the depth is showing.
Yep.
And I think for the long haul, you get yourself in a bind, something doesn't go your way or whatever in the playoffs. I think it's really good that you got these guys, especially. I don't know when we're going to talk about the defense, but especially like a Cam Taylor-Britt,
yep.
Like now flourishing and getting into these roles. So it's not like you're throwing guys into the fire at the point where we need them the most. And I think that's the T. I need T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase to get 1,000 yards, though. I'm sorry. I need that. I need that for the sport of football. I need us to look at that.
Yeah,
We're not that far away.
Wait till next year on that one, my man, because Higgins, Boyd's only sitting around 600 something, and he ain't getting 400 the last 4 weeks of the season.
He's only
a game or two.
No, he's only. So say he plays next game. He's only 100. 300 and something. He's got 700 and something.
I thought he had.
But he's got 670.
I don't know. I thought it was 6 something. I thought I read it this morning.
I got to fact check it. All right, so maybe he's at 6. I thought he was
at 655, so you're not far off. I mean, he's 350 away. He could do it.
4 games.
But he's got to play to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Right. I want the snapshot of the Bengals to be like, when we're looking back at this, when we go on the Super Bowl run, I want them to really put it in the proper context. Like, hey, this is probably one of the best wide receiver trios we've ever seen. Oh yeah, Joe Mixon, he missed a couple games, but I think he could still get 1,000 too. You like, this team is very deep, and they have some goals that I know that they all want to hit. So that's the only caveat to letting them rest. But I think more importantly, being healthy for the playoffs is more important than everything.
And, look, I've gotten on Taylor early in the year. I still stand by the offensive line thing and not playing in the preseason, but that is old news. Nobody cares. He has done an excellent job on multiple fronts keeping this team together. Anarumo, though, and I said it earlier, Zim, and we've said this, you and I have talked about this for weeks now. The one thing, because of all the offensive weapons, that rarely is talked about with this team, and I believe as we sit here today, ultimately, the Bengals defense is winning games every bit as much as the Bengals offense is winning games. In fact, I think you can make an argument they're winning more games because of their defense than they are their offense.
I agree 100%. Think about how crazy this defense is. They go and slaughter the Panthers. We're up 42-7 with the starters in and everything like that, right? And because the offense was so dominant, lost in the sauce is that the defense killed them that game. They killed the Falcons too. And then because then go watch these same teams the following week. You know what I mean? Like, go watch them like immediately after. Like, did you see the Panthers yesterday?
Yep.
When we played the Panthers, they looked like the worst team in football.
Yep.
The Panthers looked like the 10th best, 15th best team in football yesterday, And so the defense makes a lot of these guys look pedestrian. And I think single-handedly, I thought the Browns had so many chances to go win that game. It was nerve-wracking. It felt like they had 30 possessions. Every time we would make a huge stop, I didn't feel like our offense was bad, but it was like, in my mind, it was so weird. I was like, why did the Browns have the ball again? And the defense would just step up, ball out, and make another play.
Well, Zim, but before I let you go, and we'll have you on again later in the week if you got the time. Christmas is around the corner. A lot of big Bengals fans. You've got lots of merchandise stuff, so I'm going to give you a chance to give us a sales pitch, because a lot of people are last-minute shoppers like myself. You got anything good?
You got to go to zimwhodey.com, and I promise you, if you could order, if you're watching this, I'll have it there before Christmas, I assure you. If you're in the Ohio area, we generally ship out like the following day. You probably get it like 3 3-4 business days or so.
Okay.
If it's a little further out, you're kind of pushing it at this point. We're getting really close to Christmas. I still think we can get it out to you, but I really want you guys to go check out ZimWhoDey.com. A lot of different things that we've been saying on the show here on excuse me, here with Thom. A lot of things that we've been saying, like it is us, and they got to play us, and all these different things that we've seen them come to fruition throughout the season, and even the Bengals kind of adapting it. And that was my mind frame coming into the season. I was in savage mode when the season started.
Yes, you were.
Like we were the team to beat, and ZimWhoDey.com, the merch that's on there, I think really reflects that, because you gotta go. They're like, what do you want revenge for? I put the revenge tour on the back. I was like, revenge for everybody ever doubting us. And I think I represent for a large amount of people that watch Bengals teams be really good, but the misfortunes of Carson Palmer's knee or different things, and they don't talk about those things, and they remove context when they talk about us, and I'm out for blood. I really want to go back and stick it to everybody, and I want the Bengals to win so that we could all collectively say yes. And we've had a good team in a lot of different spots. It's just the way life goes sometimes, and I just hate the way that they talk about us, and I think we need a championship to move the needle a little bit in our favor, so that guys that we really like, the Jonathan Josephs of the world, the Leon Halls, the Ocho Cincos, the Isaac Curtis, the Willie Andersons, they get their just due. They all go hand in hand, and maybe revenge is a harsh word, but I just want the teams that you grew up liking, the teams that you love, the team that you invested so much into. I want those guys to get their just due. And the Bengals need to win now so that they can get our stuff highlighted really well. ZimWhoDey.com has the merch that gives you the eye of the tiger and really
Zim, there are givers in this world and there are takers in this world. You are truly a giver. And so, I admire it. You're always thinking about somebody else. You could always be looking for the limelight. That's not your style. You're a giver.
I like to think so. I want the full circle. So many people. You ever notice so many people wake up and tell you about stuff that they want to go well, in their lives. Like, maybe it's not the way God intended it, but like so many things. Oh man, it's like as though nobody else has those same issues, right? But I drive past like homeless people like all the time that are in far worse positions than I'm in, and I think I'm so thankful that I'm in the position that I am to even come on here and talk. I'm so thankful. Like, if everybody is successful, if you're successful and all the people around me are successful, if the Bengals are successful, all the things that a lot of people clamor for, I'm just using Bengals as an example. If you're helping out everybody that you're close to or people that you care about, I'm telling you, it comes back tenfold. That's why people be like, "What? You think Joe Burrow's gonna take the discount?" I'm like, no. Pay him the full amount of money. Pay him all the money. Why? Because he's going to bring it back to the city of Cincinnati times 1,000,000. Stop thinking about what you want the roster to look like. Get paid. Joe Burrow is the guy that can help out a lot of different things around your team, and all the things will fall into place. And life is like that too. If everybody else is around you and you're constantly with you, like being a resource and being an advocate for these people, I promise you, I'm living proof. Like, everybody's helped me, but it's all on the strength of I love to see everybody around me go up. If we all go up, we're strong. Look at P-Rod and Mixon yesterday. There is no starter. It's thunder and lightning. We can hit them with everything we got. You see what I'm saying?
Zim, believe me, buddy, in this time of year, we're always reminded about the spirit of giving, right? And giving gladly. And that is what you're all about, Zim. It's why we love having you on the show. You got the Cincinnati podcast going with our man Ace Boogie, some dude named Strawberry Ice you've introduced me to that I got to get on his show. I thought it was, like Vanilla Ice, somebody like that. But now you're telling me Strawberry Ice is a big dude, 6'5". I better be on just because he's 6'5". All right. Zim, have a good day today, man.
You have a wonderful day. Happy holidays. I'm going to see you later on this week, right?
You got that right, my man. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers later this week. So looking forward to that. Take it easy, my man.
Tom Brady going to have to sign that Joe Burrow jersey, ain't he? At the end of this game, they do the jersey swap. He's going to hand over the keys to the kingdom and say, let's ride. Let's do this thing. And here we go. Here comes Joe, everybody.
All right, Zim. Have a good day, my man.
You too, man. Have a
Zim Who Dey. The guy's awesome. Simply awesome. So are the guys in Box Lunch. Fellas, what's happening? Good weekend?
Great weekend.
What's the deal, by the way? When I get in here really early in the morning, and, Paul obviously, comes rolling in. Casey has done his stink list. He's clearly deep in the jar by the time he gets here. Brandon was at the game yesterday. The whole night. And they tell me that, none of your family likes sports. What's the deal with that?
No, my family loves sports dearly. The family that I married into, not so much. They constantly are planning things on Sundays when the Bengals play, or even worse, the one Saturday that they plan something all year is when the Crosstown Shootout happens. It's a serious problem I'm dealing with every week, it seems.
That is a problem.
It's a serious.
It's getting bad.
A serious matter. I mean, Reed has to find a way to at least have a somewhat reasonable conversation. And I'm not going to say with these people and those types of things, but before we get to all of that, I believe they have a cherry on top. I don't know for sure.
Oh,
but
they do?
I
didn't
think
know
Casey.
that.
I
Do we
think
have
Casey's
a cherry on top. Forgive me.
We do.
By
We do.
United Dairy Farmers.
We do, and we have a little something special for you, Tom.
Okay. I love these things. Oh, look. A little hot fudge sundae there. Cherry on top. It's my favorite.
Yeah. All right. And today's cherry on top.
That's sweet, by the way. That's really nice.
We are highlighting a very special fan. His name is Mark Walters. And this dude, every time I've been to a Bengals game, has just been going nuts. And every third down, fourth down, this guy, I mean, you got to just see this for a second. This guy, every time on the Jumbotron, he's just going after it. And here's proof that he was on the Jumbotron, just going after it every third down, man. And it was crazy. It was every third down. He's just yelling, swinging that towel around.
It's third down.
Or in this case, fourth down.
Yeah. I mean,
He's even more fired up on fourth down.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Fire
me up.
The dude brought the energy to the stadium. He brought life to the fans. I just wanted to give him a special shout out. His name is Mark Walters.
Mark Walters. That's good stuff. Mark, thank you. And I really love the intro there.
There'll be more of that
That's great stuff. All right.
Sort of content coming up soon.
Yes. Suggested by Zachary, we ought to get Leader of Men sports hoodies.
Zachary Murray with the Leader of Rage.
Leader of Rage, yeah. All right, fellas, what do you got going on here today?
Well, we're going to talk about the shootout and of course, the Bengals as they got another win. So that's big, of course.
Yeah, I also say yesterday I was fortunate enough to go to the game, obviously, and I feel like there's this. We'll get into it in the show. But before that, I mean, I know there's some people watching.
Yesterday?
I did. There was some people watching.
Yeah.
There was some people that are watching the show probably never seen Box Lunch before, and that's fair. Here's what I got to say, because I don't know if anyone really pays attention. Perhaps I know the loyal chat does. But I just thought I'd write some things down. I'm not trying to pat us ourselves on the back, or maybe I am. But on this show, weeks ago, we told you to take Ohio State to win the national championship at plus 1,400 odds. It's now down to plus 300. We also told you, Casey will test. We told you to take the Lions to make the playoffs a couple weeks ago. They're down from a plus 1,000 at the time, down to plus 300, Tom. We also said take the Jags. Take the Jags. Did we not say take the Jags to make the postseason? Yep. Chat will back us up on that. At the time, it was plus 900. It's down to plus 300. And if you don't know, the Jags have the inside track to win the division if you haven't paid attention, because I got the Titans one more time, and then all they need is the Titans to lose one more time, and then they'd have the tiebreaker. And we also, I could go down this list forever, but we did say that if you're going to be a square if you take USC, and what happened? Utah
You did. Yeah, you did.
Also said the same thing about TCU and Kansas State. So, just saying, if you want to hang around, as a friend of the show, Tracy Jones says, we see things that most of you people don't see.
That's a good point.
And I was enlightened, Tom, that yesterday there was this nice, beautiful graphic that was sent in the group chat The Bengals are 18-3 against the spread.
Yeah.
Credit to me for finding one of the three. You know, I mean,
He was
everybody
big
wanted
on
to
the
get
Browns.
everybody wanted to get on. Credit to me for finding one of the three.
Yeah,
Tom.
but that bet
Now-
you made about the Browns in the Super Bowl is one of the ones you didn't bring up.
Now what
Sometimes
Trace doesn't allude to, I think every week he goes in there, he's like, I don't know, I think you might want to be taking your opponent this weekend seriously. And then the one week that he finally hits, he's like, I told you I saw it coming. Told you I saw it coming.
All right, but I do want to see, Tom, you said you didn't really watch the shootout closely.
I did not.
I will
You
say
watched the
this.
first half.
I don't believe that officiating was the reason or the difference in the game, but I do think there was some situations specifically where UC was starting to try to get its traction, and they just were on the unfortunate end of calls. I don't have the clip of the last call, which was the drive by Sule Boom to the rim. They called the foul, and to be honest, it was a foul. But I've seen the whistle swallowed in those situations before with 1 second left on the clock. So I'm just going to point out the fact that these are two calls, Tom.
Okay.
Both called against UC. I'm going to let Casey runs the clip, so we leave this on the record.
So you are saying, after not saying, you are saying that the officials did make a difference in the outcome.
I would
You are
say,
saying that.
He is that.
I'm saying
Because if you're saying about the swallowing the whistle, and you're right about this, and this is an age-old argument, should they swallow it? A foul in the first minute is the same as a foul in the last 10 seconds, right?
Correct.
Okay, we've all had that debate. But it sounds to me like you're saying they did play a role.
I would consider myself a little bit of a bias here. I'm not a fan of UC or Xavier, but I root for the Bearcats, as I've said before. I don't think that they're as talented as Xavier is, but I do think that when you're playing in your home building in a rivalry game, you shouldn't have every call go against you. And UC had almost every call go against them. Just run the clip, Casey. Let's watch these. Tom, you tell me.
It's ridiculous.
Audio or no audio?
I have still
no audio
not
on the
seen
clip.
the clip of the last play.
Well, good. Then these are two plays that aren't the last.
Oh, okay. These are just plays during the game. Okay.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Run the clip.
Run it.
Let the people see. You're going to see it right here. Who's this foul called on, Tom?
What's on UC? You can't stick your arm out like that and
Are you
blast a guy
serious?
coming. It's not a pick.
Tom.
You got to have your body ready.
Tom. UC's wearing black, to make sure you know this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Run it again. I thought the home teams always wore white.
Here, I'm gonna
Okay, sorry.
I'm
So
gonna restart.
UC's wearing black
UC's
here.
wearing black.
So go ahead.
Well, who's this foul on?
There's no question about it. That should have been on Xavier.
Yeah,
Not even debated. And
called
look,
on UC.
And I just said that
You
I was
did.
saying-
You accidentally said it was on the other team.
Well, that's exactly right. The guy
Right.
right there setting the screen is not allowed to do that.
Yep,
He cannot throw his arm out like that
back
and
call.
blast some guy on a screen.
That's right. So here's the next call, right? Go ahead and run it, Casey.
Run it.
We weren't paying enough attention. So
No, it's the same.
So it's on the same clip. I'm
it's
sorry.
on the same clip. Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the same
Goes
clip.
out of bounds.
Okay.
Go ahead and fast forward through. So here, I'll set this one up, Tom. Guess what happens immediately after? Well, we're gonna watch this play again.
God,
I
how
don't know
is
if you
that
can.
a foul
Right
on
here,
UC?
right here.
Okay.
Watch this call. Watch the referee's eyes. By the way, he's not even looking at the ball. He's looking down the line, and then all of a sudden he turns his head real quick and realizes, oh, something happened back here. Now I have to make a call. You know what you're supposed to do in that situation?
Ask for help.
That, and if you don't know, you genuinely don't know, you huddle up and you do a jump ball because you missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell on that right
Well,
there.
Here
One
it is
team
again.
got
One more time.
It bounces off of Sule Boom, and then Fremantle immediately hits a three directly after. And again, I'm not here trying to be like this homer guy of saying that the refs cost him. Xavier's a better basketball team, but at the end of the day, I just think if you're on your home floor, you should probably get the benefit of some close calls, and they didn't get the benefit of any of them.
I don't care about the benefit of close calls. I'm just saying, the last one I can't tell anything, but I will say this: that other call, and look, I'm sure we could go down. There are a lot of Xavier fans that would be able to say, "Hey, look, we could show you Exhibit A, B, and C of calls we didn't get either."
Right.
So,
no, you're right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I hate blaming officials one way or the other. They're out there busting their tail doing the best they can. But
are you worried for Wes?
no, not at all. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. UC is going to be fine. You have to have players. Tell you one thing we're seeing on the flip side is Sean Miller can coach.
Yeah, he can.
I mean, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. But you just look at the way they play. I don't think they're that good. They're not talented, go too long of droughts and not shooting well. And I think when you play really good teams, and Xavier's going to be a tournament team. And who knows what kind of team they'll look like when we get into February and March. They're going to be, you agree, Paul, they're going to be a tournament team.
Yeah.
Conference stinks. They're well coached. They've got good talent. There are times they can make a lot of shots.
Thom, they have the 9th best offense in the country.
I understand that. But I'm saying if you look at, there are times, though, where like even in that
scoring
game.
droughts.
That's what I'm talking.
Yes,
I'm not talking about how many points you score.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters. How many do you score, right?
Yes.
But when you're playing in tight games against other teams that can score, okay, you can't go 3, 4, 5 minutes of a game of missing shots. That's what I mean.
I see what you're saying.
So I mean, I love Sean Miller. I just think the guy is a great coach. They've got good players. They've got good experience.
Yep.
And is that fair? Good experience?
Yeah.
Well, they got 2 or 3 fifth-year guys,
Yeah.
fourth-year guys.
Between Fremantle, Nunji, Sule Boom. I know he hasn't been at Xavier.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying they got guys that
he's a
have
grad
played-
transfer.
Right,
Yeah.
a lot of basketball.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to get better and better and better. They stay away from injuries, man. X is going to be a handful at the end of the year.
I'd agree. And I'd also say this, for as many times as coaches, and this is one thing that these guys will tell you I'm a stickler on, for as many times as coaches that make millions of dollars miss at the end of games on what to do in situations, both of those coaches were nails. I mean, I sent the group chat and was like, if Sean Miller, I think obviously I was being a little bit facetious here. I said, if Sean Miller doesn't tell Boom to miss his free throw on purpose, he's a terrible coach. What did he do? He came out of the timeout, missed it on purpose. And then something I've never seen done before.
Big brain.
Big brain move by Wes Miller.
That is a big brain move.
Calling a timeout, knowing that there's a small chance that you can obviously set up a play instead of just throwing a 90-foot Hail Mary is something that I think isn't valued enough within, like, the fandom. You know, like, that's something that obviously Wes is a student of the game. He's really, really passionate about knowing all of your situations and how you can utilize them to your advantage. And I give him credit for knowing the rule and then also getting it clarified before he did it too from the lead official. Because I like everybody in the not only watching, but I think everybody in the gym was wondering what in the world was going on when he called that timeout. So credit to them both. But anyway, Bengals are looking pretty good if we're being honest.
Looking really good. Paul's mad at me for saying about Xavier.
What's he mad about?
He's
I think
mad.
he rolled his eyes
He's
at you,
mad.
Tom.
He did. He was mad.
I think he
mad.
rolled his eyes.
I mean, because he broke out that ninth highest team in the country scoring stuff in the drop of a hat.
I mean,
I'm
just
just
rolled
saying.
his eyes at you.
I'm just saying, too. I didn't say they can't score. I said they go stretches where they don't score. And you can say every team does.
Then he facetiously was like, "Yeah, scoring drought." He was rolling his eyes.
It's okay. He's allowed to be. He's part of the program. We're all equal here. Part of the program.
Yeah,
But he'll get the red ass now in a heartbeat when it comes to the Xavier Musketeers.
Yes, he will. You know, I'll tell you what.
You have anything to say about that, Paul? Before we go, I get out of here.
Nothing to
See,
say.
here he goes. Now he's wilting.
Now he's pouting.
Nothing to say.
He's pouting.
No, I'm not worried about it.
He
I'm not
is.
worried about it.
Pouting. That's what I hear from my kids. No,
Pouting's for UC fans.
I'm
Paul.
not worried about it.
Boy.
Oh well.
I had a bunch of UC people come up to me at the bar. I just smiled and waved.
Jolly.
Smiled
You're
and waved.
smarter than that. Come on. I mean, you can't say that Wes Miller's timeout wasn't brilliant.
Yeah, let them set
I
up
was
a play.
listening to the radio, and when Wes Miller came over to talk to Dan Horde and Terry Nelson about that, because before you guys came in, we were talking Paul and Casey and I've never heard of, and I mean I think I know a little bit about basketball. Obviously, I don't know much. I'd never heard of a team that was on the positive side on an opposition technical foul that did not get the ball back after a technical foul.
Right.
Sometimes it's a one-shot tee and you get the ball out of bounds side out at midcourt. Sometimes it's a two-shot tee, depending on what it is. You get the ball. I've never seen in my life. And obviously, like you said, credit to Wes Miller. He knew it. Right. If you call a timeout, in that case, call it timeout and you get the tee, you are going to get the ball and have a chance to set up a final shot. That's a big league move.
That specific technical, and Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe they've changed the rule in the past years or something, because they've started classifying technical fouls lately than they never used to, right?
That's
a technical foul for the longest
Yep.
time was 2 shots and you get the ball set out of
right.
bounds, and that's what it is. Now we got all these kind of flagrant ones, flagrant twos,
Class A,
Class A,
B.
flopping technical where you get 1 shot and then the other team gets the ball back. So it's like we got all these different rules. So maybe it's been changed in the recent years that I don't know about. But to your point, I've never seen a technical foul of that manner where you get the ball back.
Yeah.
And obviously,
I guarantee
that's the
there are
rule,
coaches
so.
all over the country that are looking at that piece of video today.
And that won't be the last time this
You're right.
year where that's probably used
You're
again.
exactly
I
right.
mean, I don't know how many more times it'll be used, but Wes Miller set a standard. Because
Yeah.
you do that with, I would say, if you got no timeouts in 3 seconds or less on the clock, you probably do that again, right? Because you got to also assume
you would do it theoretically with you could do it with a minute and a half left the game.
Well,
I'm not saying you would, but I'm saying you could theoretically do it anytime you wanted to do it if you felt like you had to get the ball for some reason. Right?
The other thing that it does is it kind of puts you in a funny position on the other end on telling, in this case, would have been Sule Boom to miss that free throw or not. Because he missed it on purpose, but if he makes that free throw, Cincinnati can't get a tech because then they'd go down by 4. You see what I'm saying?
But they wouldn't need the tech because then they're taking it out from underneath the hoop.
Yeah, but they
Jolly's
still would have had a
too
timeout
smart of a guy to be
set
this. He's having a bad moment right now.
What?
Jolly. You have 2 options. If you call a timeout, you at least get a chance to set up a play for a Hail Mary. The percentages are low both ways. Let's not get it twisted.
Right.
We're splitting hairs to a small extent.
No, but
here.
we saw in
But
one of the most legendary games of all time, the Kentucky Duke game, right?
Yeah,
On the
and they had a little more time.
No,
than
but all I'm
1
saying is that it was they had the ball underneath the basket. They threw the ball to Leitner. He caught it, turned, shoot, game
Right.
over.
And listen, your percentages are much higher taking the ball out of bounds with 1 second than having your big man turn around from 95 feet and even come close to even hitting the backboard of the rim, let alone making the shot.
That's right.
So that's all it comes down to. But I would say, from UC's perspective, I am semi-concerned, and I brought up it's a little bit of like facetious in regards as Wes. My only concern for UC is that they're making. I don't think their fan. Well, I don't want to be too negative here. I don't know if they understand the jump they're about to make with the Big 12. I really don't.
Yeah, they're going to the best conference.
They're going to the best conference in college basketball. If you take this same team and you put them in the Big 12, Tom, they might win 1 game in the league.
You're right.
They're not good.
Well,
so my concern is you go from 2 years where you don't beat Xavier, then all of a sudden, unless in my opinion, you have a couple freshman phenoms or some guys in the portal that come and help fast. It's going to be a bad year next year for Wes in the Big 12, and then who knows what happens? You get these rumors swirling and all this negative vibes, et cetera, et cetera. I like Wes. I'm not saying it should be that way, but the way it should be and the way it is isn't always the same. That's what my concern is for.
Well, we'll
for
see
UC.
how it goes.
To put it in perspective, the worst team in the Big 12 right now is ranked 54th. Cincinnati's 75th.
And Ken Pom.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a whole pile of them in the top 35.
And there's 4 in the top 25.
Now, I will say this. As I've said before, UC has had the detriment of trying to recruit kids being in the American. And now that they go to the Big 12, they're opening, and Wes has already proved this, they're opening themselves up to the ability to getting those 4
But correct me if I'm
5-star
wrong, Houston
kids.
is in the American.
Well, that's because
And
they're
Houston
elite.
is coming into, are they not the Big 12 as well, Houston?
They're going in the Big 12.
So,
but
there
Kelvin
you go.
Sampson's a big-time coach,
Well,
and
I understand
it
that.
took him a minute to get there.
I understand
When he
that.
first came
But
into the
I'm
American,
saying now all of a
Houston
sudden
wasn't
you're talking about the Big 12 and all the teams that are already in there, as Paul just
I
alluded
know.
to. Now all of a sudden you're adding Houston to that group.
I love Jolly, but when he comes into town, we're going to have a talk.
Although Texas and Oklahoma are on the way out. I love Jolly. He's my old buddy. All right, boys. Have a good one. Paul,
Fair
don't
enough.
be mad at me.
Oh, I'm not.
Casey, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Tom.
Casey, Paul's going to sit over there wearing all his X stuff the rest of the year. Every time they break 75, he's going to be, hey.
That offense is good.
That's all offense. All right, boys.
Thanks, Tom.
We're going to get to – thanks, Tom. We're going to get to the Bengals in just a second. But I have this weird – this quick thought on being at the game versus watching it at TV. Watching it on TV, in my opinion –
See it, Tom.
has only one.
I don't want to skip past the shootout, by the way, but go.
Okay. Well, what else? What else do you want to talk
Well,
about?
I just wanted to to congratulate both teams on getting a victory on Saturday. The Xavier got an actual victory, and UC got a moral victory. They came back against a rival opponent. And here's what I like about where this rivalry is headed currently between Xavier and UC. That their UC fans are complaining about the referees. They only do this when you're the inferior team. You know, Georgia complains about Alabama when they play one another. Thanks, Tom. You start seeing this. Everyone complains that the refs with Tom Brady all the time. Oh, the refs are on the side of Tom Brady. We're seeing this with the Bengals. Start seeing, the Bengals are getting all the calls. That's where Xavier is in this rivalry right now. These UC fans are just like, we got to beat the refs and the Muskies. And that's bad news for the team that's going into the Big 12.
I'm not going to sit here and act like Xavier doesn't have a better team. Okay? I think that they do. I'm just saying that in that specific moment in that game when I was watching it, they were on the back end of some unfortunate calls. Say what you will. I'm not taking anything away from Xavier. But I just am not going to deny the fact that there weren't some calls that were big moments in that game. Listen, guy dribbles the ball off his foot, goes out of bounds, ball goes to the Bearcats. Instead, they don't. 10 seconds later, Fremantle hits a three. Back-breaking three a little bit, to be honest with you. I'm just saying. You got anything else to say about it? Are you just trying to rub the salt in the wounds of UC fans?
What do you mean
Is that what this segment's about?
They came
I'm not
back.
going to sit here and let you rub
back-breaking.
I'm not going to let you rub the salt in the wounds of UC fans.
Well, I'm just glad they got a victory on Saturday. Moral victories count a whole lot. They're big. They're huge.
But here's the thing.
Going to the conference play,
if you want me to be a UC stan right now, I'll start giving it to Xavier fans. Because the truth is, it all comes down to the fact that you guys want to sit here and prod and be like, this game isn't that big of a deal. We'd rather beat UConn.
We win every year.
We'd rather beat UConn this year. Well, then if that's the case, then it's not a big deal. What do you have to look forward to? You have to look forward to what? Being an 8 or a 9 seed in the tournament, maybe a 10, maybe you get a play-in game, or are you guys going to salt down the stretch, blow it at the end of the year, and play in the NIT and win your little NIT championship? Is that what you guys are going to do?
Are you scoffing at being nationally invited champions?
That's what Xavier fans are. They crack me up sometimes because you stand on this hill and you act like the UC game isn't a big deal, and then you turn around and act like
acting like it's not a big deal.
No, Paul. Let me finish.
Then
we turn around and we make fun of UC. When in the reality, in the last 10 years that I've been watching, Xavier and UC are nowhere to be found when it comes to mattering the most in the Sweet 16. So what's it matter?
How many times has Xavier made the Sweet 16 in the past 10 years?
3 times.
3 times. From a mid-major.
What?
Xavier's made the Sweet 16 3 times in the past 10 years.
3 times in the Elite 8 once.
Yeah, that's.
When was it? In 2017. 2017 they made it?
Yes.
Well, I stand corrected then.
Yeah.
Who was on the
As
team?
an 11 seed?
Trayvon Blewett.
Trayvon, JP, Sean O'Mara,
So they were an
Jones.
11 seed. I'll give them their flowers. They make the Elite 8. I know they didn't make the Final Four.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
That's the two.
UC could have. UC could have made the Final Four.
I'm just not going to listen to this Xavier
They
talk
were up
because
22.
Let's be honest.
That's the meme, right?
They were up 22.
Who's the coach and football team doing? Oh, how's the last Final Four you played in?
I am not going to sit here and listen to you Xavier stans talk about how great things are when the reality is you have nothing to look forward to this year outside of making the tournament possibly and getting bounced in the first weekend. And that's fine. But my point is act like this game's a big deal before the game starts.
When we win every year, what's it matter? I mean, it's just we win every year. Why do we care about it? I mean, we'll
see how this all turns out in about 4 or 5 years. When you know what
when the streak's at 8
I will say this.
I would love it.
My final piece on the subject. We're going to move on. I will say this: Xavier has had the benefactor of playing in a better league than UC for quite some time. They have, and when you play in a better league, you traditionally are going to get better players. Okay. How was this rivalry back in the day when Xavier was when UC was in a good league? I got news for you, Xavier fans. Wait until UC gets into the best league in the country by far, in my opinion, and then they turn around and they start stacking the talent that it's required to play in that league. You guys have your flowers now. Enjoy them while you can get them, and we'll see what happens in a couple more years.
Well, let's go
we'll
back.
Leave it at that.
Let's go back to when.
We're not going back any further. We're going to the next subject.
2004 to 2012 when, Xavier was in the A10
right.
and UC was in the Big East. Shit. Xavier won 6 of 8 when UC was in the better conference. Tough. Tough look at it. But, yeah, we can move on. How was the game yesterday? How was Paul Brown Stadium yesterday?
Well, it's not Paul Brown Stadium, so get your facts right. It's Paycor Stadium. That's strike number one on someone that doesn't know what they're talking about. Number two is I have this theory now, watching things live. Live, in my opinion, is a better experience, but when you leave, you don't have a good grasp of the game as you do when you watch it on TV. That's obviously probably not breaking news, but when you leave the game, you don't really have the same, like, oh, if this would have happened or that would have happened or this play would have happened and that play would have happened. Like, I completely forgot about the whole roughing the punter. And that's a huge call. That's a big part in the game.
Yeah, it was well warranted, but
I'm not saying it wasn't well warranted. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's just when you want to break down a game, it's such a better viewing experience on the television than it is being live. And I don't know, obviously I'm not breaking news, but is it safe to say that, and I'm going to get crushed for this possibly, I think it's better to watch sporting events on television if you can muster the fact that you can somehow get the experience that you do from a stadium of just the roars of the crowd. That's the only thing you get at the stadium.
You're not breaking. Everyone says that football is better on TV than it is in person. Like, it is.
Golf is the same way.
It is a full experience being at the stadium, especially if you're a big fan. Then you're with your peers and you're getting excited for every play. But when you watch on TV, and let's call it what it is, I mean, you and I we don't break down football film all the time. We don't know blocking schemes and stuff like that. So sometimes we need our hand held by commentators explaining to us certain times when things are happening. If you were I'm not
even talking about commentators. I'm saying, like, even runs. Like, it's hard to see what even happened on, like, the P. Ryan run when you're at the game, right? It's like, you don't get the benefactor of really being able to see the game from the vantage point of perfectly down the line.
And then you get replays and all this certain things. But I think, for me, the biggest thing is sometimes I truly do need commentators to break things down. If I was at the shootout on Saturday, I would be wondering what the heck happened on that final play. When they're calling timeout, I would have no clue. I would have someone need to text me what the heck's breaking it down. And the same thing happens with football all the time. I sit there and I wonder, oh, shoot, I need this to be broken down for me. And it's just better to see the replays. You get a better view. But, man, live, I mean, does your heart get racing every time they play Welcome to the Jungle? Do you think Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses knew how much he would change my life when he wrote the song?
I will say,
Welcome to the Jungle.
I thought that the Bengals stadium, and I've been to a few Bengals games prior to. There's a real home field advantage to Paycor now that obviously just never was the case before.
Yeah. You said your first game was last year against the Packers, right? That was your first NFL game.
The first game that I had seen from the Bengals, the first time I had seen the Packers play was when they were in Cincinnati. But I'm saying I had seen them play the Raiders when they weren't good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to compare when a team's 3-10, the atmosphere versus they are now. But I just think that there was a few moments in that game yesterday where I think that the crowd made a difference. And then
Chris Martin, is that his name? What's the fan?
Yeah. I don't know. It's Mark Walters.
Mark Walters, leader of men.
I thought Joe Burrow looked off yesterday in the first half. Seeing it live, like, he's missing some throws. But I will say this: Joe Burrow is a gamer. Like, Joe Burrow is one of those quarterbacks where you just feel like he's gonna find a way to make the right play at the right time when you need it the most. He steps up in the pocket. Right? And he's not a scrambling quarterback. And that's why, again, we'll get down this list in a minute. I am so off on Mahomes. I'm so off on Mahomes. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the thing about Joe is that he scrambles in moments in which he's looking downfield to make a play. And he did it the other day. He hit Taylor Britt, I believe. He kind of just sneaked out of the pocket for just a moment. Drew, I think, was the cornerback. And what did he not hit? Was it Taylor maybe?
Trent Taylor?
We have two
was it Taylor?
Yeah, we have two Trents. That's why they
Trent
get
Taylor, Trent Irwin.
Irwin, yeah, I'm sorry. So he hit Taylor over the middle, and he ended up getting down to like the 4 or 5 yard line. I think that's when P. Ryan maybe ran it in like the next play or the couple plays after. But those are the small plays where Burrow doesn't get enough credit. Burrow is more elusive than people want to give him credit.
So you were at the stadium. Have you gone back and watched that pass to Jamar Chase?
Did you live? It was ridiculous.
Did you recognize it in real time? How incredible that was?
Yeah.
Jamar Chase didn't even know it was coming. He literally just turned around and it just fought the seam. And the thing that you've mentioned Joe Burrow seemed a little off in the first half. I have a different take to where I don't think he seemed off. I know he started, 1 for 8 or something like that. I think he truly, and this is maybe just me being a super fan for Joe, but it seemed like he was trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. He had no one getting open because Jamar Chase was the only starting wide receiver that was on the field, that he was trying to create separation with his throws. It seemed like he was just going a little too high on the passes because he was trying to give his wide receiver, trying to create space for his wide receiver because the wide receiver couldn't do it for himself.
I think you're just being a stand.
No, there was 4 or 5 throws that Joe Burrow pretty much, he threw it to the guy, and the guy touches it, but it's just quite out of reach.
He missed the throw. I mean, come on, guys. Listen, we can give Joe his flowers. We can give Joe his flowers.
I truly think he was creating that separation.
Guys, you don't know. The guys,
If it's
I watched
T.
the game
Higgins,
in the
that's
first
a catch. If it's T. Higgins, all 4 or 5 of those balls are catches.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So
and he's throwing to a guy that's a foot smaller than
you
T.
guys are making excuses for the guy missing some passes, and that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a Joe Burrow hate take. I think Joe Burrow, besides Jalen Hurts, is the best quarterback in the league going right now. So you're not going to hear me talk about how Joe Burrow is not playing well. I'm just saying in the first half he was a little bit off, and he made up for it, obviously, in the second half, and he made some good plays. Are you going to sit here and act like Jamar Chase is any different than Taylor Britt when he threw that BB right in the middle of it and hit him right in the chest? No.
Like, you know who Cam Taylor Britt is? He's a cornerback.
I'm sorry, not Britt. I
keep
keep saying
the second time.
I know.
It's the Taylor.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, or Irwin for that matter. Taylor and Irwin, if they're running the same route as Jamar Chase was right there, there's no difference besides maybe catching the ball. Like, you can't make excuses and say he's throwing different passes because he's got different receivers. At the end of the day, Joe Burrow's tough. He's a gamer. He can make plays, and that's why the Bengals are who they are. I think they have an above-average defense, and outside of that, we'll see how well they play in the playoffs. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on the Bengals. I'm just saying that they have a couple difference makers, and I think at the end of the day, it's number 9. And it'll always be that.
You're right. Well, that's what wins in this league, and that's what's won in this league for decades now, is when you have an elite quarterback, you put yourself in a great opportunity to win ball games.
Are we on monkey off the back at this point?
Yeah, so that's where Joe Burrow, there was a monkey on his back. Let's call it what it was. I mean, he couldn't beat the Browns. I mean, that poor girl's wisdom teeth video a couple weeks ago said it. My dang hero can't beat the Browns. They're the worst team in the NFL. And they finally got that off. And it was a conversation that had been talked about all week. Like, are the Bengals going to lose to the Browns again? Are they going to lose to the Browns again? Sam Hubbard was saying it, the whole team. And it felt just relieved that they could do it, right? I mean, it's just that they should have been beating them for 3 years now, and now it just was good to see it actually happen.
I thought it was a good win. I know that everybody in here, besides me, wants to make fun of the Browns and say they stink, et cetera, et cetera. I think the Browns are a decent team. I think the Browns are a team that can beat maybe just like half the NFL, if not over half the NFL, on any given Sunday. In fact, I would say this. They're going to win.
They just play in a better conference.
They're definitely going to beat the Ravens this week. You can mark that down. That's a guarantee. The only question mark would be is if the Bengals can beat Tampa, which I know everyone's going to scoff at and laugh at, but you give Tom Brady an absolute embarrassment, humiliation, and then you turn around and have to play him a week later in his home stadium. I don't know if that's the best spot for the Bengals. But
all I could think about yesterday as the 49ers are just taking Tom Brady to the woodshed is, remember like a decade ago?
Chat's on my ass.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, all I could think about was Bill Belichick sitting, we're on to Cincinnati, we're on to Cincinnati, we're on to Cincinnati. Cincinnati was really good at that time, and the Pats looked bad, and the Pats, Tom Brady, just beat the dog crap out of the Bengals. And that's all I could think about was, man, of course the GOAT loses 42-7 or whatever the final score was the week before the Bengals come to town. Now, the Bengals should still win this game, but, I mean, I'm never counting Tom Brady out of anything. So we're gonna sit real quiet. We're going to go down to Tampa, and hopefully they win. But one thing I do want to say about, you said we got an above-average defense. I think that the difference from this year or in years past to this year as opposed to years past is the depth that this defense has. Everyone talked about, the Bengals weren't healthy or were so healthy last year. That's why their defense could play well in certain times. The Bengals have lost their best cornerback in Awuzie for the past few weeks, And who steps up? Cam Taylor-Britt. Eli Apple continues to play well. DJ Reader was out for 4 weeks, and we saw the difference maker that he can be this week. He's the best defensive player out on the field. And do you even remember DJ Reader being gone that much? I know we talked about it every week, but you never noticed a gap in the interior defensive line's game. The depth of this defense is so much greater than it's been in years past. Guys continuously step up. We've got 3 great safeties. We're seeing Cam Taylor-Britt, Scott Frost product. Praise Scott Frost.
You sure Cam Taylor-Britt isn't a receiver?
Yeah, I'm sure. It was like 3 times. I wasn't gonna get on you until like the
Taylor.
Trent Taylor, ahead. But Cam Taylor-Britt played fantastic, and it gives you a sigh of relief knowing that there is depth, that there's not going to be a death blow when one of these guys go down. The one area that I don't know if we have a whole lot of depth is linebacker. Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson are playing very well right now. If one of them guys go down,
we got
I'm
Marcus
not sure.
Bailey.
That's a big thing in the NFL is health, though. I mean, you can't as a Bengals fan or even a fan of any team, I don't think you can sit here and be like, okay, if we get hurt at this position, we're in real trouble, because there's a lot of that in this league. I mean, the reality is that the Bengals are, as you mentioned, they have good depth. And the truth is that they have a defensive tackle who's an animal in Reader, and that matters. You know, like most championship teams control the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And the thing that the knock, and it will continue to be a knock until completely just pounded and proven otherwise, similar to how Michigan couldn't beat Ohio State for years and years and years, until it's absolutely set in stone, not just once but twice, until the Bengals prove that they can protect Joe Burrow when there are pass rushers, and they did yesterday.
Yeah.
Until they do it time and time again, that's always going to be a knock on this Bengals team. That's what's going to be the thing that most people are going to point to when they say, oh, the Bengals can't do this.
Well, 2 things is, the first off, Zach Murray, put some respect on Aaron Donald, please. I mean, that's the second time I think you've said that DJ Reader's the best defensive tackle in football. It's Aaron Donald until proven otherwise, and I don't think DJ Reader has proven it anything close to being as good as Aaron Donald. Secondly, you know, you mentioned that they've got to protect Joe Burrow. I read that Joe Burrow started taking over a lot more control of the play calls after the Ravens game.
Right.
And I think since the Ravens game, Joe Burrow has been sacked the least in the NFL.
Yeah, something close to that.
He's been sacked close to the least since that Ravens game. So over the past 6 weeks now, no one is protecting their quarterback as well as Joe Burrow. And he gets rid of the ball very quickly, doesn't take a deep drop. He's changed his game a little bit.
They've also, I'm not sure if you saw the same thing I did, but people are starting to realize that the offensive line splits have changed a lot. They're leaving La'el Collins out on an island with like a 3. It's getting a little in depth into it, but the actual spread, like the actual sets of the linemen have changed to where La'el is on an island more often. He's spreading out the edge rushers more. So it just, that extra split second, that extra foot that they have to take has really been the difference just because of his split. And that's another added factor into why they're doing so well. Like that Chiefs game, he had one extra foot left in order to sack Burrow, and that was the difference, was La'el Collins' split, which is really in-depth there, but just thought I'd add that in there too.
I said this last week in some space, and I really do believe this. I think the Bengals have gotten themselves as a franchise and as a team with this current roster that, similar to the Packers in years past, when I used to watch the Packers on a year in, year out basis, you get to the point in the season where you realize that the only thing left is the playoffs. And I'm not trying to just shrink it down to just the playoffs, and that's the only thing that matters, and you shouldn't have fun during the regular season, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is that they have a roster that's playoff worthy, and if we go into the next offseason and we don't have some drastic change, I'm saying as the city, okay, that's fine, sure.
Take a little ownership. Heck
listen,
yeah.
If
he
goes
to games.
No. Listen, if Cincinnati goes into the offseason this next year and that doesn't have a complete roster shift and there isn't some major changes, we need to stop with the narrative that this team is going to have a an off year, or they're going to have a Super Bowl bust or whatever it is. They're in the same situation that the Patriots have been in the years past, the Packers have been in years past. Like it or not, the Steelers used to be in this in years past. It is what it is. You're going to win some games. You're going to lose some games. You're going to win more than you lose, and you're going to make the playoffs. Now it comes down to, in my opinion, are they peaking too early? And the answer is obviously always like, oh, but I believe in that. I think the Dolphins are proof of that right now. There is a chance to where, as a team, you start playing really, really well too early, and then things start to go sour at the end of the year, and you just can't get that mojo back. Perfect example was the Bengals last year. And, again, this is some of that, like, analytical, like, oh, you don't believe in jinxes type stuff. In chat, maybe tell me if I'm wrong here. I really do believe that there are teams that, for whatever reason, have that magical mojo going late into the years, similar to the Phillies baseball, not trying to cross-convert here, but to where you're playing your best ball at the end of the year, and that's all that really matters. That's my main focus now going forward with the Bengals is, what does the last 3 weeks look like going into the playoffs, and are they riding high? Yes, you'd like to win a division so you can play at home.
Yeah.
But I really don't think that matters quite as much as just playing decent football, period, and making sure you stay healthy. Because you're making the postseason, right? Not trying to jinx anything, but
98% chance right now.
We're making the postseason.
They'd have to lose out for the most part.
And I guess the next thing would be, and this is my opinion, however it lines up, I hope the Bengals fall on the opposite side of the Bills. That's all. I'd rather play the Bills in the AFC Championship game, right, than to have to run through the Bills before that. Because you don't want to have to play the Bills and the Chiefs is what I'm getting at. You want to play just one of them.
Right, yeah.
You just want to play one of them.
So
if there's a way to fall in that line to where maybe this is bad on me for not knowing the AFC that well. How close are the Chiefs and the Bills in regards to being on the same side? Do we know?
Casey has.
I'd have to look that up.
So the Bills are number 1, and the Chiefs are number 2 currently in the standings.
So that means that they wouldn't fall on the same side.
Yeah.
They'd be on opposite sides, which that would mean that the Bengals would have to hop into 2. Would have to hop into 2.
You'd
or
probably
the Bills.
rather be on the Bills side, right? To have to play
I
the
just
Chiefs.
don't think so.
Have to play the
Personally.
Chiefs a fourth time.
If the Bengals win out, then that pushes the Bills down because we play the Bills, and we would have the same record if the Bills just lose this game and win out.
Do the Bengals have the inside track on the Ravens if they win that Week 18 game?
Yes.
Do the Bengals control their own destiny if they win out? Like, will they win the AFC North if they win out?
Yes.
Yes. Listen, I'm telling you right now, though, and I'm not trying to be like funny
they're
and
even right
facetious.
now, so
the Browns are going to beat
If
the
they win
Ravens.
out, they can't lose.
Yeah.
Do we not think that the Browns are definitely going to beat the Ravens?
No, it's not. I have faith
Where's
that
it
they'll
at?
do well. I even said it on the show that Deshaun, the path for us to overcome the Ravens without having to beat them in
It's in
week
Cleveland.
18.
That's good.
Is that Deshaun was going to have to play really bad against the Texans, start to figure it out against us, which he was, and then he's going to be finally
I just think the
doing
Ravens
something.
are frauds, guys. Like,
Oh, I do too.
100%.
Especially without Huntley now, like, just forget it. It's game
Huntley's
over
hurt?
for them.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't.
hurt.
I didn't know.
we're on our third string quarterback.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So
Anthony Brown.
all I'm getting at is that we'll see how that all pans out. I know Sir Boy is going to kill me for this take, and I really don't care at this point. I'll die on this hill. Let me preface it by saying, do I think that Mahomes is a bad quarterback? No. Do I think he's a good quarterback? Yes. Do I think he should be put on this pedestal like he continues to be put on? The answer is no. Like, the answer is no. And to be honest, how many times does this man have to play late into ball games, make mistakes before he gets treated the same way Tony Romo got treated? The same way that Aaron Rodgers would be treated from time to time when he makes a mistake late in the games? The same way that you guys would crush Andy Dalton? Like, I'm not suggesting that again.
Yeah, let's not put those guys.
I'm not trying to put him on the same pedestal as those guys.
Yeah.
But I want to know, and it looks like he's got this all queued up. Casey, great producing. I want to know, would the national media, if you swap Patrick Mahomes with what he's done in the past few weeks, with some of these big-time quarterbacks, would he not be treated differently? Why does he get a pass?
Listen, after you tweeted that, because I take offense to that because I am a Patrick Mahomes stan, as you know. And two things about your Patrick Mahomes hatred. First off, I looked up his splits as opposed his career of interceptions, and he's fourth quarter. It's pretty even. He gives up just as many interceptions as the other 3 quarters. So just the idea that he always gives up the ball in these crucial situations seems.
Are you talking about just fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about the fourth quarter when the game starts getting tight? Yeah, I know you didn't do those splits.
Well, I know.
I'm saying he did it against the Bengals. He did it yesterday. Go ahead, run these clips, Casey. Run these clips.
Well, this is what I'm going to say is, Trace, your hatred for this man is just taken away from the joy of football. If you love football and you watch these plays, how can this not bring you joy? I don't understand. This is something that no other quarterback does. And he does this seemingly every week. And you can't find joy out of watching this man play football. Something has happened. I want to know who hurt you. Why can you not watch this man play and not just get immense joy out of watching him play? He does just highlight after highlight of a sport that we both love so dearly, and still you're just like, this guy, I mean, he's just a fraud. Can we start holding this man accountable? Look at this.
I'm not saying that's not a great play, but that is what people come to expect out of Mahomes. Yeah, that's what he's known for. Okay, but you don't want to bring up the clip. Looks like you're the one that made these clips up. Clearly, you don't want to bring up the clip of him throwing a ball to 3 different defenders in the Bengals game. You don't want to bring up the clip yesterday when he gets down in the red zone again and he throws an interception to God who knows who he's throwing the ball to. You just want to show the highlights, and that's fine.
Well,
that's what the national media wants you to see.
And that's cool. For every play where he makes a bad play, like those interceptions that you're alluding to, he creates something glorious out of nothing.
And all I'm saying is that's not sustainable. It will not be sustainable.
No other quarterback in the league makes that play where he's a no-look just over his shoulder pass. So when he makes a touchdown play like that, he gets a bye for 2 bad interceptions because no other quarterback in the league does it.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's a terrible take.
Why does he not? When you make – look, it's all about positive plays versus negative plays. And when you make a positive play that nobody else in the NFL does, an over-the-shoulder, no-look touchdown pass for 60 yards, no one else in the league does that. He can then go by and make a negative play on the back end.
All right, go ahead, sir, boy. I'll answer your question.
More often than not, he is creating
Let me ask you this.
and winning ball games for the Chiefs.
Here's my
when
point.
He starts losing games for the
in a
Chiefs,
nutshell.
that's when it becomes a problem we can start talking about.
Could you imagine if Tony Romo lost a 28-3 or 21-3 lead against the Bengals on your home field? Could you imagine losing to the Bengals 3 or 4 times in a row, whatever it's been? And still,
I can imagine Aaron Rodgers losing a 16-0 lead in the postseason against the Seahawks. That's what he did.
Sure, yeah, if you want to sit here. But that's my point, is that you guys have the audacity to sit here and look me in the face and act like Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. You have the audacity to put Mahomes in the same space, as Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, when this guy's done it for like, 6 or 7 years.
I'm not saying that the longevity's there because he hasn't had a chance to compete for longevity. I will tell you.
And I'm getting out in front of it and saying that he will not have longevity.
Okay.
He won't have longevity,
I'm
folks.
telling you, from what I've seen for these 6 years, is better than any other quarterback I've ever seen.
I'm not even comparing Romo to Patrick. What I am trying to say, folks, is simple. He gets treated differently. For whatever reason. Maybe you could sit here and say that some of the highlights that he makes are so great that you overlook the bad balls that he throws at the end of the games from time to time. Okay, call it whatever you want. But a good quarterback, a great quarterback, I'll tell you right now, Tom Brady is not losing a 21-3 lead against the Bengals on his home field. Ever. Never in his life would he lose that. Ever. But you know what? Mahomes gets a pass. Mahomes gets a pass against the Bengals in their last game. And no one wants to bring up the fact this guy was brought into a system under Andy Reid. He literally sat behind Alex Smith, who had a couple great years, to be honest with you, with the Chiefs. Took the teams to the playoffs both years.
Yeah,
he has Tyreek Hill as a playmaker. He has one of the all-time greats at a tight end. I'm not trying to take anything away from Mahomes, but what I am saying is he's been the benefactor of every possible advantage that you could possibly have in the NFL. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, you could say, oh, you're going to laugh about Tony Romo. Okay, Tony Romo was you want to talk about making chicken salad out of chicken shit. Like, Tony Romo put him in the same regime as Patrick Mahomes, and I'd say roughly you get the same results. And you can crush me all you want. We'll see how it goes for Mahomes. Time will be on one of our sides. We'll leave it at that.
Can I ask you a question? Has anyone had a better
Is Allen
first?
Really, go ahead.
Has anyone had a better first 5 years of their career than Patrick Mahomes?
That's not what I'm trying to argue. I'm trying to argue.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you,
stop
all we can do
putting
is
him in the classification of the all-time greats. Stop.
Okay, yeah,
That's what the national
until they,
media does.
and that's but all we can do is watch what he's done. I mean, we haven't seen what happens after the 6 years.
Why
What we're
don't they
saying
talk
is
about Jamar Chase?
his first
Why don't they say
5
Jamar
years.
Chase is one of the all-time best receivers ever? Because that's what he's doing. Jamar Chase is literally the equivalent of a wide receiver as to what Patrick Mahomes is as a quarterback. He's the exact same
And if
thing.
Jamar Chase does it for 5 years, people will start throwing him in those categories. We're in year 5 of Patrick Mahomes. He's 60-16 as a starter.
Okay, that's fine. So you're telling me that in 2 years, if Jamar Chase keeps it up, they're going to put him in the same classes as Jerry Rice,
3 years,
Randy
because
Moss.
we're in year 2 of Jamar Chase.
We'll see.
Yeah, if he does this for 5 years, yes, he'll be in that category.
I'm just waiting for someone to hold Mahomes accountable. I can't wait for all the excuses when he doesn't win again and he throws a couple interceptions in the AFC Championship or whatever, and we'll just sit here and we'll act like he's the greatest of all time again.
Just to let you know, I'm on your side, Trace.
Yeah.
Most of the time when they lose, it's because of Pat Mahomes' mistakes. And that I can even pull up since he was a rookie or since his first year or whatever you want to pull up. You can go back all the way to the Rams game when that was the game of the year. The reason why they lost, he fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
In the playoffs against the Bengals, he threw an interception late in the game. There's a bunch of different instances where he's the reason why they lose. And I think that is what Trace is trying to say, is that we don't hold him accountable for the losses. Sure, it's fine that he wins.
Because he generates wins.
But when it matters,
I mean, we got. You can't win this argument, Casey. We'll let the tape play out.
Let me ask this question.
We'll let the movie continue to play. Let me finish. And Sir Boy has so many questions. He's asking me about Allen. Here's my thing with Josh Allen. Nobody's putting Josh Allen's name with Tom Brady's of the world. That's what pisses me off. If you haven't noticed,
They're putting him with Patrick Mahomes is getting put with Tom Brady.
This isn't like me sitting here trying to say Patrick Mahomes is a bad quarterback. I'm saying don't put him with the all-time greats. He doesn't deserve to be even close to that. Not even close. Don't even put him with Drew Brees.
To push against the point that you guys say, like Casey just alluded to, that every time that the Chiefs lose, it's normally because of Patrick Mahomes' mistakes.
It's not every
I'm
time.
not going to discount that. But I'll ask you this. Patrick Mahomes, as a starter in the regular season, is 60-16. If you put any quarterback in the NFL in the system that he has, do they have a better record than that?
I mean, that's a tough question because he had one of the greatest receivers of all time and one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
I don't think they do. I mean, he's never lost more than 5 games in a season, in a regular season.
I mean,
and that was last year.
I mean,
the tough thing is that we always compare individual achievements with team achievements. And if you sit here and you want to, you'll be called a hater like me. All I'm saying is the Chiefs are a damn good football team. Really good. Elite level football team. It just so happens they have a quarterback that can make highlight reel plays from time to time. But if you put Joe Burrow on the Chiefs, you want some facts? Put Joe Burrow on the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have more than 2 Super Bowl appearances. They might have been in the Super Bowl every single year. Because Joe Burrow can play within a system. Joe Burrow is able to sit in a pocket and make the right read. He's able, and during crunch time, to throw the ball to guys in which he's supposed to throw the ball to. You know what Joe Burrow doesn't rely on? He doesn't rely on the fact that he can scramble around, run around, and throw the ball over his head. And when it gets tough, when the game gets tough and it gets down to these critical moments, that's what matters the most. It doesn't matter that you, during week 12, during the regular season, you can run around with your head cut off, throw the ball over your shoulder, and you get a first down.
Let's not act like
so
Patrick
it is
Mahomes.
What it is. Let's move on.
You're talking about playoff success. Like they'd have more than 1 or more than 2 playoff appearances.
The Chiefs don't have Higgins or Chase. The Chiefs had Tyreek Hill, arguably one of the best wide receivers,
Travis Kelce,
in the last 20 years, and literally maybe one of the best tight ends ever. No one gives Travis Kelce his props either, or his flowers, in my opinion. You know who orchestrated that late game drive? Yeah, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. But you know who also literally went to Patrick Mahomes in the huddle and said, hey, they're running this coverage. I'm going to go sit down in this zone spot. Throw me the ball. It was Travis Kelce. I digress. Let's move on because we're not going to get anywhere here.
The final point I want to make is let's stop discounting what Patrick Mahomes has done in the postseason. His first year as a starter, that's 2018. He faces Tom Brady in the AFC Championship and loses 37-31. He puts up 31 points against a great Patriots defense. His second year as a starter, wins the Super Bowl. His third year, loses to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And then last year, he did blow a 21-3 lead against the Bengals. But let's not discredit to say that he's been a wash in the postseason because he's been fantastic.
I'm about to discredit his one Super Bowl win, and I know I'm going to get
How do you discredit a Super Bowl
I'm going to get flamed for it. But the dude threw up a punt, and the 49ers couldn't come down with the interception. Are you kidding me? And Tyreek Hill takes it to the house because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill.
Right.
It's not because of Patrick Mahomes.
He's right. But it is what it is. The beautiful thing is, chat, we all get to watch the rest of the regular season, and I can't wait. And trust me, call me a hater, call me whatever you want. I'll die on this hill. Patrick Mahomes will do what Patrick Mahomes always does. He'll find a way to make a critical mistake late in the game. And I'm just waiting for someone to hold him accountable. We'll move on.
Yeah,
go ahead, Paul.
Get in here, Paul.
I just don't even understand what you're arguing. I truly don't.
I'm arguing.
I've been listening to you argue this point for 3 months, and I truly have been trying to wrap my head around what you're even trying to get at, and I can't.
What I'm getting at is that if you get rid of just the pure perception of Patrick Mahomes and how he's so great and how he makes these outlandish plays from time to time, Sure, he throws the ball over his head from time to time, and he makes an unbelievable play. I'm not taking that away from him. But what I am saying is that no one wants to criticize the man when it comes down to crunch time. He's made mistakes multiple times.
Okay.
He threw 2 interceptions in overtime against the Bengals, dude. Eli Apple dropped an interception right in his lap. What did he do? 2 plays later, he threw another interception. Could you imagine if Tony Romo did that, Paul?
Could you imagine Joe Burrow doing that?
Yeah,
he'd be
get
crucified.
crushed. He'd be crushed. But since it's Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter, I guess. He's still the greatest. Okay. That's my point.
All right. I don't really have. I mean, I'm very much on Reed's side of this argument. So I'm not gonna like sit here.
The room is split.
I don't need to go on about it.
We're both very passionate about it.
The room's split.
The room is split, and we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I think that shows that this is a very good debate and topic to talk about.
Well, we'll watch it as it plays on, right?
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, marriage.
Tom already bring this up. We got to fill it up. But the thing is, guys, gosh, I mean, luckily none of them watch this show because
we need the chat to help you.
I've got a serious problem with. I married into a family. I dated Mariana for my wife. We've been married for 1.5 years. Dated her for like 9 years. Love her dearly. Anyone that knows me knows madly in love with her. That being said, I've got a serious problem where it seems like every time there's an important sporting event, her family plans something that I have to be at. I mean, we're going back to the Bengals first postseason game against the Raiders. I had to go to a frickin' baby shower. This past weekend, I had to go to Athens to have a joint family Christmas, and I'm watching the Crosstown Shootout. There's 8 minutes to play, and what happens? They all gather around. It's white elephant time, and I'm looking at them like, there's 8 minutes left, guys. It's 5 o'clock. Can we, do this a little later? And they're like, I was like, don't be an asshole. Let's just do this. So I pull it up on my phone.
Hang on. She said you were an asshole?
Well, I mean, because it's not about me. And I get that. I'm in a room with 20 different people, and 19 of them could care less. So yeah, I'm in the minority. I'm in the wrong to prolong this party because whether we like it because we all like sports desperately, there's other things outside of sports, and you realize that, especially when you get around my family or her family. Is there's other things than sports, but. It's a serious problem that I'm dealing with here,
I would like to make an argument for your case. It's your job to know what happened.
Well,
so you need to be able to watch the game.
That's
right.
What
I said.
That's a good point.
And that's actually what my family has said. Are you studying? Are you actually watching the games on Sunday?
I should tell her I'm working right now. Can you leave me alone as I'm sitting cracked open with a Busch Light, cross-legged, watching?
Why are you going to baby showers?
Well, it was the first baby shower in her family. So there was like 30, and there was all these guys there.
That's a big deal.
And I told her that the only way I will go is if I don't have to partake in anything. I can be in my own room. And then at that point, and then it's at that point, it's like, why can't I just go somewhere else and watch this game? Like, I'm not even a part of this whole ordeal. It's so frustrating. And I'm starting, they're starting to like get on my case a little bit, like, oh, you're addicted to sports. You always are watching sports, all these things. And I'm just like, yeah, it's
man, it sucks.
This is bad.
Well, it's just like, listen, there's like 19 events all year, sporting events
This is a lie. Go ahead.
that I have to sit down and watch. It's every Bengals game.
Yep.
I have to sit down. To be honest, if there's big college football games, you know what? I'll do stuff. I'm not a huge college football fan, as we've debated on here before. But every NFL game, I need to be sitting down and watching the Bengals game. Crosstown Shootout, I need to sit down and watch it. Opening day for the Cubs or any postseason game, I need to sit down and watch it. That hasn't happened in a few years, so lucky for them. But they need to stop planning stuff on Sunday. And the worst part is, I don't know if they do it on purpose, but it just seems the timing is always terrible. We've got something to do at 1 p.m. when the Bengals play at 1. We've got something to do at 4 p.m. when the Bengals play at 4. The timing is terrible. And I'm lucky because I think there might have been a breakthrough. We leave from Athens. That's where we watched it. I think I did something good because I was in Athens on Joe Burrow's birthday, so that was nice. Yeah. So we left at 9 a.m. so we could get back in time to watch the Bengals game. And we're sitting down watching, and the Bengals start taking the lead. And, they're playing Welcome to the Jungle. I'm getting excited. I get pumped up. And Mariana's kind of getting into the game, and she looks at me and goes, Reed, why don't we go down to, downtown Cincinnati or, go to these games every once in a while? I look at her like, Hun, I would love to do that every freaking Sunday. That's what I want to do every Sunday is go and watch this around other Bengals fans. At least let me go to the Avenue. I mean, come on here. Why do we always have plans? But luckily, we've got a breakthrough. We're starting to look at Monday Night Football tickets, so we got that going. Gosh. Whew.
Do you think maybe there was a moment there where she realized that it was a little unfair for you?
I think that there was a moment to where I don't ask for a whole lot, and I don't ever complain. That's she always says this is her favorite thing about me is I never complain. I just do whatever she tells me to do. And I think she realized that I'm breaking through that, like, oh, these Bengals games mean a heck of a lot there to Reed. Maybe I should just let him do what he wants on these Sundays during the Bengals games. But gosh.
So, Reed, I kind of sympathize with you because I thought I had cooked my goose yesterday. When I go to my girlfriend's place, they don't have cable. They don't even have the basic cable.
Oh.
Like, all they get is ABC, which doesn't do any NFL games.
Yeah.
There was a huge family party yesterday. Couldn't miss it, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, I have a Paramount Plus stream. Like, I can at least be 30 seconds behind, but the internet's kind of spotty where they are. Then Lizzie lays it on me. No, it's actually at my brother's house, and CBS is the one basic cable channel that they got. Disaster avoided. I just posted up over in the corner. It's
great.
There were like 2 or 3 other of us that were just watching the game.
Hold on.
Disaster avoided. And it was a great time. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. We could all be a family together.
So
you know what's the worst part about being in – go ahead, Casey.
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get over the fact that her grandparents only have one ABC, and your brother-in-law or your brother
they all just
only have one.
They all stream. But the problem is that then I have to bring my laptop and do the HDMI, and it becomes a whole deal. I've done it, and I will do it. I don't miss a game. But sometimes it's tough.
I'm glad that I'm marrying into a family that's all about sports. I mean,
it's something, Casey.
It really is.
I really genuinely can't believe that your guys' situation is this dire. I've married into a family that doesn't know anything about sports, and maybe it's just my hard-headedness. Maybe it's my lack of would it be sympathy or empathy? I'm not sure which one it is. I always get those mixed up and wrong, anyways. But I just don't care what it looks like and how I'm perceived whenever I'm at somewhere that requires me to watch sports. If I have to pull it up on my phone and sit by myself and literally just not talk to anybody, I do that. So you always, but you guys are talking about not having the game. You guys have YouTube TV.
No, that's what I'm saying. My girlfriend.
You guys have a phone.
My girlfriend's family is very good about like knowing that I have to watch every game. Like they know that a Bengals game or a Xavier game or a big college basketball game's going on, like I'm checked out, and they very much understand that. So that's maybe where you and I differ.
Well, like the problem is like there's often things that need active participation from me, like a white elephant thing.
Oh yeah.
And it actually got to the point where I'm watching this game on my phone in this white elephant party, and you know how it is. There's steals and everything like that. And every time someone would steal my present, so I would go up and I'd pick one of the good presents, and then 2 seconds later we're in crunch time and people are stealing my presents and I need to participate. So I got to the point where I just took the worst present. Someone stole my present. I took the worst present and just punted for the rest of the thing. So I went home with just something that no one wanted. And I was like, all right, I just need peace for these final 3 minutes of this game. That's
good strategy right there.
You know, honestly, what the worst part, not the worst part about this situation is when I do finally get to watch it with these people, with her family who doesn't watch a whole lot of the games, is then having to explain. They're asking all these questions you're like, what happened there? There's a flag thrown. What happened there? And I'm like, just watch. They'll say it's a holding. Well, what? Now it's a defensive holding. How does that? So then you got to be like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And then they start giving opinions about the game, and you're just like, just cheer or boo. Just cheer or boo when something good or bad happens. That's all I need out of it.
Sir Boy makes a great point. What are you going to do about Christmas Eve?
Ooh, so I've already looked at this.
Okay.
Her family, very, very, very Catholic. And I appreciate about that family. I mean, we go to church most Sundays, but a big thing is Christmas Eve Mass. It's a big what to do. The Bengals play at 1 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Mass is at 4:30.
Oh no.
You got to get there early too because it's Christmas Eve.
It is, yeah. I mean,
you can't be showing up 4:35 like first reading. You got to be there early.
Not good.
No,
this isn't a good situation that we find ourselves in. This isn't a good situation. So I'm gonna have to figure out.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be honest about that one. That's the one. Now you should have not been punting on the rest of these. I will say you should have been a hard line in the sand. I'm watching this game. You guys want to call me an asshole? Call me an asshole. I don't care. I will sit over here in this corner on my phone and watch this game. You guys can play your white elephant game. Tell me what I get at the end. You punt on the Christmas thing.
Well, yeah. There's.
You do not want to try to get yourself in a situation where you appear to be valuing football over the Lord in that situation with that type of family. You just don't. You move on. The Bengals are going to make the postseason. Draw a hard line in the sand during the playoff games, and then we got to punt on that.
Well, here's the good thing. So the guy at St. Joe's Church, where we go every Sunday, the guy who passes out the pamphlets and the flyers on the Mass ordeal, he's wearing a Joe Burrow jersey at Mass, handing out the things. So I'm hoping that he's got his phone and I can just stay real close to him during the beginning of Mass so I can watch it. But
how funny would it be if you got there early as you possibly can? And you get there, and there's nothing but just people lined out the door with Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon jerseys on.
That'd be funny.
just a bunch of people that are trying to do the same thing you are.
Yes, it is. Boom shakalaka makes up a good point. Maybe I just punt for St. Pete's midnight Mass, but pray. Oh well, let's get to lunch. Let's get to lunch.
Chat. That was fun, chat.
Need some suggestions.
Something quick. McDonald's, Wendy's. I don't care. All 8 up.
All 8 up. Can we just go to all 8 up?
Let's just go to all 8 up.
Let's just go to all 8 up.
Everett's a big politics guy. You ever notice that?
Yes.
My man Thom has any hint of politics in him, and Everett is all over it, man. He's all over it. Now he's on the religion.
Everett just wants controversy.
He does. I like what Everett's about.
He's looking for it.
Yeah, we're not going to go to wheel lunch. We're just going to
go to all 8 up.
All 8 up today.
What? Oh!
Who did?
Yeah.
I actually have some breaking news, and I don't know if you guys saw this.
Oh man! Bum 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 bum.
Dun 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 dun.
We got duped.
Oh, we did get duped. We did get duped.
Tom Brady is not dating that fine woman that we put up on the Instagram from the other day.
What?
She played us.
Yeah.
Like a fiddle.
Yeah.
That was a lie, a scam.
We got duped. Scam of the day.
Scam of the day.
That was a scam of the
Hold
day.
on. Wait.
Yes.
Wait.
She made it seem. I mean, she was putting up pictures. She
Scam
never
of the
talked about the
day.
NFL ever
Scam
on her
of the
Instagram
day.
page, and all of a sudden she's talking about how much she
Scam
loves
of the
Tom
day.
Brady. Tom Brady
Scam
this,
of
Tom
the
Brady
day.
that.
I just played Scam of the Day, and you just talked all over it.
Yeah, it's because we need to figure out how we can hear the program. You know, that'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Or at least just the sound effects. We'll figure it out.
We got duped. That's just
I think it showed. It showed on Sunday.
Everett.
It showed. Everett, your friends are not mad that you told them about it. I can tell you that right now. You did not lose any. You did not lose any credibility as a friend for spreading that false rumor. I will say this: it showed up on Sunday, right? I mean, we thought Tom Brady was back. Turns out he wasn't back then.
Dan Patrick.
How did we find this out? Was this obviously got big enough to where
yeah, it
you
was
had
on
to get
TikTok
the bumps?
last night.
I guess we overreached by just assuming that she was Tom Brady's girlfriend because she was like riding shotgun in a car that Tom Brady drives, a similar car, and then all of a sudden she hadn't been talking about the NFL for her entire Instagram career, and all of a sudden she's at the game sitting with people that Tom Brady works with, and
What a wild move by her.
Now,
that was the all-time marketing move by her.
Yeah, it was. She gained like, what was it, 80-some thousand followers in like 2 days? I mean, incredible move.
Nicholas Reed Mouse.
Now, I will say, like, it's not. What'd you say?
I said Nicholas Reed Mouse being one of them. So I followed. I hit the follow button. You kidding me?
You had to stay updated on the story.
Yeah, of course.
It's not like Tom or whatever her nice name was.
Reed doesn't let
Veronica.
Reed doesn't let any family relationships get in the way of him following games.
No.
And or getting in the way of his job.
Nope.
Well documented.
But
oh man,
it's not like either one of them denied it. TikTok just did some digging and some investigating.
Oh, I mean, if you're Tom, why would you deny that?
Tom follows her too. Tom doesn't follow
Yeah.
Tom. That was a big thing on Instagram. Like Tom's following this girl. Who cares? I can't wait to get in Tom's DMs this weekend. What a coward by Deshaun Watson not opening up his DMs.
By the way, if you aren't following Reed on Twitter, he has some slight moments of hilarity, and there are a few things that Reed does that is funny. You got to sift through a lot of the fat to get to the prime. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of swing and misses on Reed's account, but he doesn't swing and miss on this. Reed has a pastime. We're going to put it in a book, by the way. You thought I was joking? I'm going to go get one of those books that you can buy off like Shutterfly or something where you can just upload a bunch of images.
Yeah.
I'm just going to screenshot all of these images that you've made over the years past, and we're going to put them in a book at the year end. Hell, we might even make it like a year-end book sale or something.
Yeah.
And Reed DMs the starting quarterback for the opposing team that the Bengals play, and you usually have something funny to say. I don't know. Can you pull up one of them?
Yeah, let me try to pull it up.
He's gonna try to pull up one of them. I mean, these are elite tweets, man.
Well, thanks.
I really do. I mean, you don't get enough traction on those.
Well,
I'll be honest.
Speaking of Twitter, I got to get more Twitter Spaces because after bombarding the Xavier Twitter Space on Saturday or Friday night, I got like 12 to 15 new followers, all Xavier accounts, just trolling people in there.
Yeah, you did. You put on a great performance.
Sir Boy, what are you talking about? My profile picture, I believe, is the national championship game last year. I don't know what
All
we're
right.
talking about.
Here's
Talking about something else. What are you talking about?
Let me
This is the
put it up,
Deshaun
man.
Watson.
yeah, this is from this last Sunday,
He's gonna
right?
try to screen them both in. The chat is anxiously
There it
waiting.
is.
This is beautiful.
It always ends with the Welcome to the Jungle YouTube clip. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you always end it with that.
And you sometimes I call it the Thunderdome. I often say that you're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die because that's the lyrics of the song. But yeah, have fun. Deshaun Watson. I mean, what kind of a man closes his DMs? A man who's got something to hide. He's got a lot to hide. Deshaun Watson, not fooling anyone.
Coward.
All right, let's close this show. Thanks, guys.
All right, what we got for the wheel of lunch?
Are we doing lunch?
We're going all 8 up.
We're just gonna go to all 8 up.
Okay.
That's fair.
That's
Get the lunch special. Get a calzone. Whole 9 yards.
We'll be back Wednesday for
Not
what
too
we'll talk
picky,
about.
Not
we
too
don't
picky Thursday. We're going to do the whole bowl preview. You and I are going to pick every game on Thursday. Every game. We're going to do a bowl challenge on Thursday.
Hell yeah.
Make a huge parlay.
Every game.
Yeah. We're taking every game. All right.
Thanks, guys. This has been Box Lunch. See you on Wednesday.
See ya.